And we're live. Welcome everyone to our live chat where we have Cynthia Sue Larson with us, and we have a nurse and some of the other folks that are joined with us here tonight. I'm sure you're all very familiar with. I want to start out by saying a prayer. Lord, like David, I need your encouragement in a time of trial and anguish. Thank you that you are always on the throne, always my God, ready to save. Thank you for being the same God to me that you were to David. Thank you for always being near and always rescuing me from my fears and hurts. Lord, help me remember that daybreak might just be ahead, that this trial will not last forever. Fill me with hope that daybreak is coming and that your love will always prevail. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 That was some good music to start the night. So we have Cynthia. This is a long expected show, a long anticipated one, I'll say. We've been trying to get you back on for quite some time now, and we're so glad to have you.
I'm so glad to be here. I'm glad it worked out.
Yes, I pray for me. I always get nervous doing these shows. So, you know, I've done like hundreds of them, and I still get nervous.
You're doing great. You're doing great. It's really good.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, let me show my face so everyone can see me. Hi. Hi, everyone. I know I'm not in the closet. This is actually my room. Oh, okay. So I want to introduce everyone. We have, like I said, we have Cynthia Sue Larson.
Hi.
Charles Villarreal. What's up, Charles?
So, open my fortune. It says a new adventure awaits you this weekend. Yes.
Nice. We're always up for adventure. Harold is our paranormal investigator and our investigator into MK Ultra. Hey, Harold.
Hey, how you doing, Brian? Hello, Cynthia.
Good to have you. Jessica's our nurse. Hey, Jessica. Good to have you.
Thank you. Hi, Brian. Hi, everybody.
Hi. So glad you could make it. MS E-Man is our E-Man's our preacher man. What's up, E-Man?
Hey, how y'all doing? How you doing, Jessica? And how you doing, baby?
And of course, Troy. Troy.
I'm here. Yes, indeed, Brian. Thank you for having me on. Hello, Jessica. Hello, Cynthia. Very nice to meet you both.
All right, so let's get started. I have a few questions for Cynthia, and then I'm going to open up the floor to everyone. There was one question that I really had last time that I wanted to ask you, Cynthia. And, well, it was, let's see, in one of your lectures, you talked about quantum entanglement between particles across galaxies. And you mentioned that there seems to be a limitation on the distance. My question to you is, as a scientist, like, how do you test quantum entanglement exactly? Like, how do you, is it like a theory, or have they actually like proven it?
Okay, that's a good question. And as far as limits go, the limit, I think I don't remember where you heard that, but the limit would be according to a current test. And theoretically, there's no limit. There's no limit at all. But experimentally, there are limits in terms of getting the kind of results that scientists are looking for in order to build quantum computers. what they need is to generate a situation of entanglement that they can prove is holding together across a distance of, say, 30 meters or whatever. I think the distances are definitely increasing. So that's been going in a good direction. What was the other part of your question?
Absolutely. Well, there was something that you mentioned about periphery. I like that context. You talked about these Mandela effects being at the periphery of our awareness, and that they're not the focal point; they're off to the side. I really like that topic. Talking about the holographic universe.
Yeah, there's a physics element to this as well. So this gets into what's called the quantum effect, which is basically if you're this is used in quantum systems, and it's a proven phenomenon. What's more theoretical is the way we're talking about it on this show, but that's okay because all of us here, I think, are experiencers of Mandela effect. So we know it's happening. But as far as the quantum Zeno effect goes, it has to do with something familiar to all of us, which is the watched pot phenomenon, where if you're checking to see if the water's boiling on the stove and you check and you check and you check, you're constantly checking and it's still not boiling. And it seems like it takes longer when you keep checking it that way. And the quantum Zeno effect would say that is true, in fact, that you can actually use your attention in a focal way to lock a system into a certain state. So in other words, if we're talking about various realities, you can lock in a given reality by checking it constantly. And this might be one of the reasons why people who have obsessive compulsive disorder and that sort of thing don't tend to notice Mandela effects as much as those of us who are slightly more neurotypical. I'm not saying we're totally neurotypical, but probably more neurotypical. And then in that case, we're noticing things on the periphery. And generally speaking, that means if you notice someone alive again, it's not going to be your brother, your sister, your mother, or anybody that's in your household or at your office or your next door neighbor, but it would be someone a little bit more removed who you're absolutely sure they died and now they're alive again, that kind of thing.
That's some crazy stuff. And speaking of like paranormal and all that, there's the last question I had for you was about basically, okay, we have this person who coined the Mandela effect back in 2010. You're all familiar with Fiona Broome, right?
Yes.
So what happened to her? I mean, did she like disappear off the face of the earth? Because I haven't really heard from her. Has anyone ever heard from her? Cynthia, have you
according to what we heard, she had died, but unfortunately, somehow, some way, she's now back. So she has the contact page. You can contact her. It kind of blew a few people's minds because they had heard she had died, and yesterday we actually found her contact page. So
wow.
You can fill out a contact, and she'll get back to you on email.
I've actually tried to contact her. I haven't heard back from her yet. But that's a good point, Harold. Thanks. Another thing is, Cynthia?
Yes.
Yes, another question. I mean, that was my last question, but talking about Cynthia, I mean, Fiona Broome herself, before it was the Mandela effect, what was it called? You know?
Yes, the first term that was used for this exact same phenomenon was coined by the author PMH Atwater in her book Future Memory. She has a chapter in that book called Reality Shifts, and this is exactly what she's talking about. And the whole chapter is full of what we would call Mandela effect examples. And unbeknownst to me, I didn't know about her work until later on. But in the late 1990s, I was trying to find some term, and I also chose reality shifts. So I think that's interesting. But
can I jump in there too, Cynthia? This is Troy. I'm glad you said that. In fact, I've heard of another term called the Toto effect. Are you familiar with that term?
How do you spell it? Is it T-O-T-A-L?
No, T-O-T-O. Toto, like Dorothy's little dog.
Like the dog. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I haven't heard that.
Essentially, this right here was very similar to the Mandela effect as well, which had occurred, not too long ago, and essentially it was the same exact kind of experiences that people are going through. However, that just kind of phased out. I didn't hear too much of people talking about it, not too long after the phrase was actually coined. But essentially it's basically the same exact thing, that people were experiencing anomalies in their reality, things that they remember collectively, even that they remembered as being true were then different, which I was curious to find out. You've heard.
Do you know when was that? Like the reality shifts term, that was PMH used it in the mid 1990s. And then I started using it in the late 1990s. So when was the Toto effect? Was that more recent or?
That's a good question. Let me see if I can even dig that up. Let me find that out. I'll get back to you on that one.
Cool.
Oh, by the way, guys, I just got a message back from Meegs B. She will be joining us very shortly. Maybe hopefully 20 minutes or so. That'll be nice to see her. She's always with us. From week to week, she just pops in. So have her as well. Yeah. So there's this thing that we were talking about, Troy, the other day. While you're trying to find that real quick, we were talking about this. You know Hollywood, right?
Right.
Who doesn't know Hollywood?
I mean, it's right next to me. I can't not know it.
Where?
I don't know who discovered this, but it could be a possible effect. We're not sure yet. We haven't really confirmed it with too many people. But Hollywood used to be called Hollywood Land.
Yeah, that's very strange.
From 1923 to 1949. So you might want to check with your grandparents on that one. As far as I know, I don't remember it. I mean, we would have heard about it in school, I'm sure.
There would have to be, because look, I basically, as a band, I played all over Hollywood. They've got museums down there. You could see the beginning of how Hollywood was actually started. The first movie stars. Somewhere down there, they would have something. Even memes nowadays that would depict Hollywood Land. And I haven't heard of anything to that nature. But seeing it, especially that large up on a hill, I'm telling you, I've never seen that, never heard of it. I've actually been up to that hill. I've heard stories about it. I've never, ever heard of Hollywood ever being Hollywood Land. And I can say that factually.
Yeah, and
I know a lot about it.
You're from California. So
I'm from California, yeah. And it's right next to me.
Yeah. So Cynthia, I remember you were talking about that one in that talk with Mandela effects. Like, it seems like if you're from that area, you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Like, if you're from that area or if you've known that person, then it won't affect you. But it seems like you have to step away for some time to notice it. And then that's where you were going on about the periphery of your.
Yeah. That's right. That's generally true. There are exceptions to that, where if you get into like a theta brainwave state of mind, and if you're open-minded and aware that these things can happen, then you can get some phenomenal real-time effects where things literally appear out of thin air or disappear, that kind of thing. So then you get some pretty extraordinary stuff happening, but that's not typical for most people. I just want to put that in there too. But it's possible.
I just want to mention that for a lot of people, they've been experiencing time anomalies, where time speeds up, slows down, goes backwards. Is this all to do with their state of mind, or do you think it has something to do with maybe the Earth passing some sort of anomaly like a black hole? Or what is your take on time anomalies?
Yeah, that's That's something else that's commonly reported. It's one of the most commonly reported reality shifts that I've been tracking for the last 20 years. And that would be specifically the one that comes up the most is where people are driving in their car. Again, they're often in a kind of a daydream state of mind, a little bit theta brainwaves, and they will notice that they've gone a lot farther in miles than there's any possible way they could have traveled. So if they're driving, like California is a big state, so if they're driving from Southern California to San Francisco or something, and it should take 6 hours at least, they're able to do it in like 3 or 4 hours.
I'm back.
Wow. Thank you. Yeah, because that's exactly, I heard about that, but it's happened to me as well. As a writer, I got lost in writing, and I look at the clock. It's 8 o'clock when I start. I'm writing for 3 hours, and I look back at the clock. It's 8 o'clock. Nothing has changed.
Wow.
Yeah, I've had that happen a couple times.
Cynthia.
And I know the clock works.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it must be a theta state. I might have got stuck in theta.
Hey, Brian, just so you know, I've actually sent you a couple links to that. If you want to pull those up, if you can, there's a lot of people that are talking about the Mandela and the Toto effect actually being very similar. In fact, they're even proposing a new term called the Mandela effect.
You're kidding.
No.
Mandela effect? Is that what you just said?
Yeah. Well, in fact, if you want to pull up, so I sent you a couple links. The latest one is actually the proposal of calling the Mandela because it's basically dovetailing on or piggybacking on the Toto effect. The proposition to term it the Mandela effect is now being proposed. So,
well, you know what that's all about. That's all about division. That's all about trying to make people own sets. And I begin to see that all over this phenomenon where everybody want to have a piece of the pie.
Yeah, that's.
And
I
always say, this is not a piece of the pie that I want.
No.
I'm glad to be a part of a community, but when you start a subbing off things, like I gave a coin the other day, I say it's like we becoming the Missionary Baptist Church Mandela effect, the Koji Mandela effect. We got our own little sets now we're trying to create, and that
sounds
like
a division. Yeah, it sounds like a division of the community. It doesn't matter what it's called. The fact of the matter is that it's actually taking place, and whoever's trying to profit from this, I mean, that shows that their intentions. If looking a little bit deeper into it, I was actually looking through a couple links, and essentially, it looked like they're saying that the Toto effect was derived from head trauma. So apparently, we all have been in some severe kind of accident or something, which is that's of course that goes hand in hand with them trying to debunk what's actually happening or divert the attention and label us as as dingbats and fruitcakes. So
crazy.
Well, there was a couple little things I wanted to share, and I know Jessica wanted some time to speak with Cynthia as well on quantum stuff, because that's like pretty much her thing.
Can you hear me, Brad?
Yes, I can hear you fine, Jessica.
Can I add a few things?
Yeah, go ahead. You got it.
I'm still trying. I'm new to Hangouts. This is the first time I've used it, so I'm not really sure what I'm doing. But I did want to make it clear that I do not hold with the theory that he was proposing, that there are people who are trying to cover it up, that there are people who know about this and trying to profit from that. And I just wanted to, I know that that's several people's opinion, but it is not mine. And I do believe it has to do with the quantum state, like Cynthia does. I can go into more detail if you'd like.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think what we're really talking about, not far as trying to make a profit, but in anything that you do, you begin to have friction or division, and right now it's a lot of division and diversiveness, and so I believe that's what more like was maybe be going on. People trying to get away from this so-called thing, Mandela effect, so that they can make their own sets, where it's still the Mandela effect, but it's a remove from the culture. And so it's not. We're not. I don't think he was talking about far as prophets, and I think people just trying to make it their own. And like I was saying earlier, this ain't bands.
Am I on mute? Can you hear me?
No,
you're not on mute.
Now we can hear you.
What I wanted to say was that there's what I feel like is that we have to be based in what science is showing us right now. And we have talked to, I know Brian had his friend, I'm sorry, who was the other lady who was on the show last time? Brian?
Last week?
Your friend that spoke when I was on that one time? Talking about changes?
I'm trying to remember. It might have been Teresa.
Okay. Well, right. It was Teresa. And what I wanted to say, though, is that science, that, some of these changes that people are reporting are not something that anybody could cover up, because it's something that's happening in your friend's case right in front of her eyes, or in the situation where I tried to look up Looney Tunes and then hit the back button and it had already changed. Literally within a second, it had changed right before my eyes almost. I mean, I didn't actually watch the numbers change like she has said she's seen, but I saw it change within a second. So there's no possible way a human could be doing that. And that's why I think it has to be something that's grounded in quantum physics, and it has to do with what Cynthia was referring to about the quantum state. And I think it has to do with consciousness and the conscious universe. Does that make sense? I think this is something that the universe is actually responsible for doing, not any person, and not any particle accelerator either.
Okay, how about the biblical account? And the reason I'm saying the biblical account, if you read Daniel 7:25, said this thing is going to happen, and so because of that, I'm at a biblical stage that these changes, some of them are cynical, and because what would be the purpose of changing the Bible? Well, what would be the purpose of that? I mean, and what message are you trying to relay? Like putting unicorns or piss in the Bible. I mean, see, so some of it can be, I believe we all have pieces of the puzzle, but nobody has the whole totality of the puzzle. Yeah, there's no total.
Right about that.
And so we
and I was going to say too, along the same lines, speaking biblically, are there any other books out there? We're talking the Quran, any of the other.
Yes, the Quran has been changing as well.
It is, okay.
And
I was curious about that.
Yeah, actually, it's changing, and there's other books that are changing. I've noticed that just as the movies were changing, books are changing as well.
And the Catholic book changing too.
Yeah. But I think that this effect, is much wider than just religious books or time. It affects all. The effects cover everything.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, I'll tell you. For instance, well, let me tell you. For instance, one person went to back to where they had lived before, and there was a house there. There was a dilapidated house, and the fire department decided to use it as a training tool, and they burned it down. But they controlled with a controlled burn. They burned it down, and they took it out of there. But when the person went back to the place where she lived, the house was back, right where it was, as if it had never been touched. And it's things like that which make it makes no sense. Why would this house just reappear, out of nowhere? Or why would somebody set up an electrical contract with electric, to pay at a certain, monthly rate, and then call back and there's no record of it ever happening, and things like that. It just doesn't make sense. It's like,
yeah, that's
why?
what I'm saying. I think the strong delusion is here, and we as human beings, we are very inquisitive. We want A to me A and B to me B, and 1 + 1 to equal 2, and so we try to figure out the solution where, in some form or fashion, we might not never figure out the total equal the equal number that's supposed to be there. We are in fractions, I believe.
Yeah.
And just like you said, I had a personal Mandela effect myself. I had a pair of scissors that I bought. They were brand new and they were sharp. You know how it is hard to get scissors. And my sons, one of them broke the tip off of them. I put them up because, I could still probably try to cut with it. And so I went looking for the scissors, and all of a sudden the tip is not broken again. And so I believe it's multiple things happening all at once. And when we think we at a point of catching it, it makes a different turn.
Right. And say something to that. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Cynthia, can you say whether or not you feel like what I'm saying is correct, and correct me if I'm wrong? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sure.
Well,
go ahead.
I have a strong interest also in quantum physics, like you were talking about, and entanglement. And they have been able to prove that entanglement exists up to 1,200 kilometers, which is 750 miles. And if you, Cynthia probably understands this very well, but what I tried to explain to Brian, and the reason he invited me on the show today, is because most of y'all probably are not familiar.
Oh, we lost everyone.
Hello?
Cynthia?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Am I still on?
Yeah. You and I are still on, but they got kicked. I don't know. Something to do with the network. It's a little bit clogged. It's okay. We'll get them back in.
Okay. Well, I can riff on what Jessica was saying. I think I can pick it up for her.
Am I back again?
Oh, she's back.
Yes. Hey.
Am I back?
Okay, good. Perfect.
I'm sorry. I don't know how that happened. I just got disconnected.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
It's a lag issue. It's fine. We're okay.
Yes.
Okay. What I was going to say though is that if you set aside what you believe about reality, then you'll start to know where to begin to start to understand what quantum physics is already showing us. It's not something that matches with our idea of normal physical reality, and the everything that makes sense in the large scale completely goes out the window when you go down to the quantum scale. And there are positions of states for particles where they can be in more places than once, and also be nowhere at once. And they can go through one side or another, and they have not been able to figure out why this phenomenon occurs. But when they try to measure it and use a detector to examine it, it stops behaving like that on a quantum level and starts behaving like the regular expected reality that we deal with every day in our everyday lives. And that's why I'm telling you that this quantum physics is where people need to start to understand where what's happening with the Mandela effect. And I understand that you have to look through history also, that throughout history, humankind has always taken anything that they can't explain and chalked it up to biblical reasons. And I am not an atheist. I believe in God, but I'm more of a Unitarian person that believes basically there's one God, and that everybody who has a different religious belief, like Muslims or Buddhists or Christians, they all are just different ways for humankind to have developed a way to connect to that God. So I don't really think there's more than one God. I think it's all the same God that we're all worshiping. And I think that God is more in a universal and spiritual sense, and not in the biblical interfering with our everyday lives and performing miracles right in front of our eyes thing. But that's not to say it's not possible. And I do think it does happen. And I think quantum physics is what makes it possible. But that's still within the natural laws of reality. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like what you're saying. And I'm actually on the same page with you in pretty much all regards. So regarding the religion aspect, what you said about the one God, I think that's definitely true. I think humanity, we're limited by our senses and by our ability to perceive. So if we expect that we could possibly know the full truth about the idea of a God, I think that's hubris on our part. Right. It's a little bit ridiculous. And as far as quantum physics, I love that explanation for the Mandela effect. That is exactly my go-to. And then we get into which interpretation of quantum physics are we going with. And as far as that's concerned, I don't have a final answer, but it does look like things are in progress. And there's a lot to like about several of the different theories. And as you mentioned, super is extremely important, and the observer is extremely important. And this is where we definitely see a difference between the kind of science that we grew up with, classical science, where we have been taught that we can have an objective experiment where there's no interference between the observer of the experiment and what's happening, and then absolutely 180-degree different result with quantum physics, because the observer pretty much always affects the outcome in spectacular ways. So yeah, I totally agree that that's what we're seeing with the Mandela effect, is very clear evidence of quantum phenomena happening on a macroscopic scale, which has never been ruled out. It's just that we tend to assume that above the Planck scale, the very, very tiny space of an electron or a photon, it's been assumed by most of the scientists that we would never see spooky action at a distance. We would never see superposition of states. We would never see entanglement or coherence or all these bizarre things that happen in the quantum so-called realm. But actually, we're witnessing it a lot more than we think we are. So I agree with you.
I agree with you completely. What you said on a macroscopic scale, I agree with that as well. And I think that's one of the other issues that I study besides quantum physics is near-death experiences. And I know that there are multiple accounts of near-death experiencers who have actually reported dying and returning to the light or heaven or whatever you want to call that, and then waking up on the side of a shore where they had drowned by themselves out at sea or out in a lake where nobody else was, and they have absolutely no idea who rescued them. They have absolutely no idea how they're still alive, but there they are, and they're reporting this on huge numbers. But people don't actually examine these incidents because it doesn't match with what the scientists can actually replicate. And replication is the key. If they can't replicate an experiment, they dismiss all these personal first-hand accounts of the Mandela effect. It's dismissed because it's not replicable. And they dismiss the reports of people who've had near-death experiences because they can't replicate it. And so if nobody was there to witness this person dying, then they wake up, they didn't die. There was, that whole thing, if a tree falls in the woods, is there anybody to hear it? Well, if there was nobody there to witness somebody dying, then if God intervenes and decides that it's not their time, then they didn't. And it's that simple. And that's a macroscopic example of quantum physics in action.
Absolutely. And one of the last talks I gave to a public audience, it was a group of several dozen people. And I mentioned one of the experiences that people tell me about, and they usually do it privately because for some reason it's not accepted in our culture, but it has to do with facing absolute death because a car is coming at them, or maybe a large vehicle like a Mack truck, something big like that. And then they just brace themselves. They know they're dead. They know it's over. But then when maybe they don't even close their eyes, maybe they see it coming at them and suddenly it's gone and now it's on the other side. And this has
There's an
happened-
example of exactly that, where a sheriff's officer was standing outside his vehicle and a truck was coming at him. And he said the next millisecond, he was all of a sudden standing on the other side of the car in safety zone. And he said, I had no idea what happened. I knew I was dead. There was no doubt it was going to hit me. And then all of a sudden I was 20 feet away. And that's a macroscopic example of quantum physics in action as well.
I gave that talk. 3 people after that talk, there were only like 40 people there. 3 of the 40 people individually came to me afterward and said, that happened to me. So this is
people won't talk about it because they think that, people will think they're crazy.
That's right. They assume that it's that they're the only one it happened to, or they don't. It's just it's awkward. It's a big secret, but there are lots of people this is happening to. Yeah.
I've actually taken an informal survey. Out of the people I know, about 60% have recognized or been a personal witness or has something completely unexplainable happen to them in some way, shape, or form.
And these are miracles.
I believe we all have the ability to do these kind of things, because if you like if you say science and all of that, we really only understand 10%, but every now and then we may operate out of that 10% over that 10%, and ourselves our brain may be a quantum computer, but we only access 10% sometimes, and sometimes we out of that state. And so I understand that, because even the biblical account of quantum mechanics was there in the past. Because if you look at the angels of men, angels of God were sleeping with the men of a man, they had to be in a different state of mind to sleep with an angel, somebody that we can't see right now. They was in a different state. And so
it was the sons of God were having sex with the daughters of man.
Yeah, and they were angels, and they was angels, and it was giants, and it was beings of renown in them days. And so we probably been in these states for a minute, but we don't have the ability to access that portion of our brains all the time. And sometimes when it's needed, it activates. But where I come into a different mindset of some of this is that don't explain changes of words in the Bible. I mean, especially cynical things.
Can I say real quick?
Sure.
Because we had a question that I've had to post like 3 times. It came from Flirty Gertie, who says, why are we not in sync with the Mandela, and why are there residuals? It's a 2-part question. Because not everyone sees the same Mandela, but yet we have Mandelas that we all have in common, it seems. And then there's residuals of like everything. So it's confusing. It's like a land of confusion, it seems. Who wants to take that one?
You know what? Do you remember me explaining to you what I felt like had happened, Brian, personally?
It was a while back. It was back in, I think, September. It was last year. It was the last time we talked about quantum physics and mechanics.
Right, and this goes back to, and don't get me wrong, I think that quantum physics is an act of God. I think God uses the laws he created for our universe to be able to perform miracles. But in the explanation that I think makes the most scientific sense is that our world line, because if you go into cosmology and physics and astrophysics and all of this other fields, you'll learn about the multiverse. I'm sure you've heard about the idea that there are multiple universes, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that would mean there would be multiple world lines. And when I say a world line, I actually mean a universe line or whatnot. And if you've got an infinite number of universes and they're operating on a very slightly different, and I mean very, very subtle differences in some of these closest vibrational experiences. It's hard to explain without using words for physics. But if we're on a world line and there's another world line that's very, very close in frequency with ours, and something happened to our universe, we would be shifted imperceptibly. Our consciousness would be in our version of the exact same person in the closest vibrational universe to us. And so some people would lose their memories. It's like, I think you have a quantum level of memories as well. So you would have the old universe's memories, and some people would have their, you know, the new version. Do you see what I'm saying? So you have some people who can remember the old world line memories, and some people that have the new world line memories. Does that make sense?
I said that before. I said that we may be on different frequencies, and that's the reason why some see and some don't.
Right.
But I still go back to the point is I understand that, but some things quantum physics can explain some of the changes, but like the United States or South America moving 33 degrees off of kilter.
Right, but if you went to a universe that was slightly different, then that would be to be expected. But some people would carry their old memories because your consciousness would have to merge too. And I think that your memories, one memory would be more dominant than the other. So like if your exact replica is in the next universe and your consciousness merges with that consciousness that is still your consciousness, if you can wrap your brain around that, then you're going to have one of those particular memories that's going to win out. It's going to be the dominant memory that you hold and true to yourself and think, no, this is definitely the way it was. I remember. And the other memory is negated. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, so that means a whole lot of us have died then. Or a whole lot of us
but you didn't. Do you see what I'm saying? Though you didn't. It's quantum physics. You can be both alive and dead at the same time.
It's transferred, brother.
Hey, I was wondering, Jessica, if I may ask you about this one. Have you ever heard of the rice experiment? It's an experiment you do with two containers of rice. One you speak nothing but love, and the other one you speak nothing but hate.
And plants, and yes, plants have especially shown to be more receptive to loving energy. But that's talking about energy states, and when you're exuding positive energy, that absolutely has an effect on anything in the vicinity, and I think it has a butterfly effect in the universe itself.
It sure seems like it.
I think that's why. I'm sorry, Brian.
Sorry about that, E-Man. Yeah, I was going to say I had one heck of a bowling game. I don't usually bowl like I did this past week. I had 5 strikes when the heat was on. 5 strikes in a row to the very end, and man, I just nearly blew up the place with my voice. I said yes, just excitedly. I mean, it never happens like that usually. But I love the excitement of everything. I mean, I'm in a career that I'm happy with. I'm with a woman that I'm very happy with. In fact, she's here with us tonight. Hey, Lisa. She was really excited to have you on, Cynthia. So yeah, I'm giving her a shout out.
Yeah, let's hear from Cynthia.
Which one? I don't know which one is the nurse. Which one is the nurse? Which one is the nurse?
I'm the nurse. I'm the nurse, but I have a ridiculous, deep interest in the universe and quantum physics and cosmology and everything else, and near-death experiences.
How about the body changes? Have you checked out?
Yes, I actually was on his show about that.
Yes, we talked about. You want to elaborate, Jessica,
just
on that?
Really briefly. Yes, yeah, there's some differences. The main difference, the one that was a true. I'm absolutely 100% sure the kidneys had changed position, but there are multiple other more minor anatomical differences, like our skulls used to have no thin layer of bone behind our eyeballs, and some of the ribs have changed. The other more subtle changes have occurred as well, but the kidneys for me was my clincher, because I had visually seen the kidneys inside people's bodies before as a trauma nurse. And sometimes they have to leave people's abdomens actually open and keep what's called a tegaderm film over top of it. And I knew where the location of the kidneys was. So the new location of the kidneys was really one of the most striking things for me.
Flirty Gertie says, I want to hear from Cynthia.
Yeah, I was being patient. I do have answers. And thank you, Flirty Gertie. I love the questions.
Yes.
So let's start with the first one. That was, why are we not in sync? And what I'd say is that it has to do with those entanglements we were talking about earlier. And when you think in terms of groups of people, you might think in terms of people that like the same music, like if they like the Beatles, or, you know, maybe they like rap music or whatever, or Taylor Swift, whatever. But that's one kind of way of getting people into the same kind of frequency group. As far as how they're experiencing these reality shifts, and some definitely are seeing some shifts and others are not. I really don't know. In terms of the physics explanation, that's what I would come up with, is basically entanglements. So you've got groups of people that are sharing their memory of a different alternate history, because every time you've got a Mandela effect, that means you've witnessed something that's quite different, like what Jessica just said. And by the way, I'm a big believer in that too. The kidneys have definitely moved. That's affected like 7 billion people on the planet simultaneously without any fanfare. And they've all gone to a safer location, so you're less likely to get
exactly. I thought that too. I thought the anatomical changes have actually benefited us, but keep going.
Yeah, I love these anatomical changes. So anyway, yeah, but back on track. So why are we not in sync? Probably because some people have different overall intentions or questions, because this really is a quantum phenomena, but it's definitely driven, in my opinion, by our beliefs about like God and our intentions and what we're doing in the world. So you might call it your kind of spiritual purpose or meaning, but that definitely has a huge impact. And the second question, why do we see residuals? Now we get into this idea about the alternate histories, and you'll see something show up that has clearly, it's illustrating what some of us remember who've had the Mandela effect, but it's bizarre because it no longer matches the official history. And this is simply a case, as we've been talking about, Jessica and myself, with the physics examples. Definitely, by the way, our memories are quantum. And that's what I've seen reading books by Jerome Busemeyer. And I had him on my radio show, Living the Quantum Dream, and he was a guest talking about this. So you can hear that podcast for free. And he definitely says that our memory is extremely quantum. Not only that, but we make decisions in a quantum fashion. And he's got a great book. It's full of lots of mathematics. So if you like physics and you're a nerd, it's a great book. But it's also good if you're not, because he does explain what he's talking about and why the decisions work that way. But back on track, why the residuals? Once again, it all has to do with consciousness. And when the part of us that is conscious, and that's who we are, is making some kind of a choice as to what we're experiencing, that's the part of us that's making that jump to that new reality. And then when we land in this new reality, the history is very different than what we remember having happened in our lives. So I hope that answers the questions.
Can I ask a question too? I have a question really quick here. Sorry, man. You know, along the same lines too. Okay, so and I get what you're saying, and it's really interesting to hear all this. One of the things that I was curious about is that when you do, well, let me use myself for example. When I do broach the subject of the Mandela effect to somebody that does recognize the same experiences and memories that I have, and then pointing out that the changes are different, you can see the correction. They take a look at, and then they rationalize in some cases. In other cases, they become quite hostile and aggressive. You know, want to hear your thoughts about why that actually occurs.
Who are you addressing the question to?
To Cynthia.
Cynthia?
Cynthia, you there?
Is she there? Did we lose her?
Yeah, I muted myself. Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
That was me. I did that to myself. Okay. Yeah, I love the question. And obviously, we definitely have in that situation people having emotional reactions. And a lot of people are not open-minded to this phenomenon. So if they're not open-minded, it can present a threat in the sense that it's something unknown. And therefore, it can trigger fearfulness in a lot of people. So this is, you know, probably why they're
I would like, can I agree with you on that and add just a bit? I think that you're right. Studies have shown, multiple studies have shown that people who are classified as open-minded, their brains actually function differently than somebody who would be considered closed-minded. And they use particular definitions as what open-minded and closed-minded is. But the point is that I think that the open-minded people are more Mandela affected because of the way their brains function. And I think that when somebody is less open-minded, that they will try to rationalize it away or become hostile to protect themselves because they can't deal with something that doesn't make sense. And just like our brains function in an optical illusion where our brain is trying to make sense of what we're seeing, so it will actually add a line where there isn't a line. I'm sure y'all have seen tons of examples of those. If you look up optical illusions, there's many, 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 many ones. But it's your brain actually trying to make sense out of reality. And so when the photons are hitting your eyes and you will add something that was not there. And I think that that has something to do with it too, as to how our brains function and whether some people are more subjected to falling for lack of a better term, an optical illusion than others are, just like some people can be hypnotized easily and others can't. So I think that's what it has to do with too.
I want to add, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I love that. And open-mindedness is a quality that's one of the top 5 traits that people actually do have control over, in the sense that you can expand how open-minded you are. And I agree that it definitely does change your brain. It changes the way that you think. I did a study, which I'm just going to, I don't know if this shows up. Probably not. Oh, boy. I can't see it. I'm sorry. And I don't know how to get it on the screen, but it's an illustration from my book, Quantum Jumps, which is this book. And basically, it's just the result from a survey that I did, and the results are online on the realityshifters.com website.
What is it? Are you sure you're sharing the book? Okay, hold on. I'll get it on the screen. There, everyone can see it now.
Okay. Can you see
there.
it?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that shows. Good. And I don't know if this page, oh, you can kind of see it, but it's kind of hard.
Are you guys able to see her book?
Is it backwards or does it look?
No, it's fine.
Yep.
Fine.
Oh, cool.
It's fine. It's just a little blurry with the little word, but I can see the pictures.
Yeah, the picture shows that when I did a survey, how do you shift reality? And I surveyed hundreds of people, and this goes back into the 1990s, you know, back when I first started the website. And I've redone the survey 13 years later. So I've got 2 data sets. And that's very interesting to show how people's reactions to these reality shifts, Mandela effects, have changed. And if you look at, I don't know if this, if you can see the numbers, but the 30% has to do with feeling curious when they see a reality shift. Now, obviously, this would probably be a more open-minded person.
And that
I have a question for you, Cynthia.
To me,
Cynthia, I have a question for you.
Go ahead, E-Man. You go ahead, and then I wanted to say something about the sower, because what you just showed us.
Go ahead, you go. This is your show.
No, it sounded like the story of the sower. You know, where Jesus throwing the seeds, and some people hear it and take it in, and other ones don't. You know, I'm sure you could elaborate. Go ahead, E-Man. I'll let you take the. Go ahead.
Yeah, Cynthia, I got 2 questions for you. The first question is, why are we so aware of the changes now? That's the first one. Because I wasn't aware of this. It seemed like the vibration or the awareness is increasing. And the second part is the quantum state or quantum mechanics happening on its own, or is somebody manipulating things? And the only reason I'm saying it because they say they have quantum computers and that they can change certain things and reach into other dimensions and make a effect in our world. And so are we at a point like NASA and Google at a point where they can actually type it in and it becomes reality?
Okay.
Cynthia?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, great questions. So as far as why are these changes happening now, one thing that I've noticed that's definitely been changing, and we've hit a tipping point, just in the last couple of years, maybe it was 2010, I don't know exactly, but the tipping point that I'm talking about is here in the United States of America, more than 10% of the population is now meditating. And I would add to that that people are also getting into that theta, the brainwave state of mind, more perhaps with our cell phones and that kind of thing. So I think we've got more people who are getting into that perfect wave state, a brainwave state rather, where they're actually able to witness, if they're observant, that things are definitely changing. That there's a different history. The book has changed. The movie's changed. Maybe someone said something that they know they heard, but that person swears they did not say that. That's another very common reality shift. So I basically put that forward as far as what's happening now. I think more people are at that beautiful place where they're able to be aware of it. And then as far as quantum mechanics and reality shifts or Mandela effects happening on their own versus being manipulated, I don't know that we can know for sure.
There was something I wanted to show after.
Sorry, what?
There was something, sorry, I froze the screen for a minute because Lisa was asking a question and so was One Eileen.
Okay.
Lisa says, Brian, tell Cynthia that her channel got me through a couple of really tough years, and thank you. So, thank you so much for your spiritual coaching. Apparently, it has touched, not only Lisa, but a lot of other people along the way, too. Thank you, Cynthia.
Oh, thank you. That's really sweet.
So sweet.
Yeah, and the other one comes from One Eileen. Please ask Cynthia why or how 90% of my personal MEs take me forward in time, but 10% are taking me backwards in time now. That's a good question.
Duality.
Probably duality, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what's meant by like how much forward and how much back in time. Is it the kind of thing we've been talking about on the show?
Well, I know on the show we talk a lot about retrocausality, and there is something that I would like to share with you guys. Actually, one thing that is only slightly disturbing, a lot of these Mandela effects can be disturbing. To me, like ruining my favorite TV show as a kid, that's disturbing. And then another one is like Back to the Future. I don't know if this is a periphery thing. Maybe I just didn't pay attention too much. I don't know. You guys help me out here. I've got some things here to share with you. But you want to take that one question real quick while I share it?
Oh, about the 90% going forward and 10% going back?
Yeah, is that like having to do with retrocausality, or is that something totally different?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand exactly what the question is. I know most people tend to be forward focused, so not so many people are looking back. We tend to assume that things that have happened we all agree on, and that's like, why would that change? We still have a bias that way, even those of us who've had Mandela effects. So it's possibly just what's being paid attention to, but I'm not sure I understand exactly.
That's what I'm trying to get more clarity on the question.
Okay.
And I
have photos in my Google Photos that's coming up that I'm in it, but I don't remember being in it. I mean, I understand about where you say what we observe, but how could you have a physical reaction to something that's physically that you're physically aware of, that you see you, but you don't remember you? I mean, literally, I got at least 7 photos of my Google Photos.
I know what you mean.
That I don't remember.
I don't remember touching, and I was holding a crab. I would never in my life, in the life of me, hold and touch on a crab. I know what you mean. There's a picture of me when I was like 5 years old or whatever. E-man.
Yeah. So why do we have them personal things that's like, if you say we shifted maybe a percentage or 2%, wouldn't the scenarios around your life change and you be sync with them? Because it seemed like I'm out of sync because if I was in sync with her, I should be able to have some kind of memory of that, but I don't. And so maybe my high frequency is not allowing me to be in sync. Meaning I'm in a different time, but on a different frequency. The frequency I'm in maybe be lower or higher, and I'm at a different degree. And because I'm at that different degree, I'm denying the total sync up. You know, I'm out of alignment.
Yeah.
Well, there's only two.
With
There's
that
only
history.
two frequencies. It's fear and love. You got to give up all the fear and give into all the love before, you'll be in sync. It can't exist at a. Yeah.
Cynthia, did you want to
It can't
take a stab
exist.
at that, or do you want me to try?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, go ahead if you've got an idea on how to.
Well, I do. There was the one theory that was posited by actually a child prodigy who's a physicist, was that one about how the multiverse exists and that maybe our world line got destroyed and our memories merged and consciousness, and some won out and some didn't. That's one theory. The other theory that I think is actually much more what I believe is that, they've already, again, this is theoretical physics here, but they're saying that these universes exist alongside us and that we just don't have access to it and awareness of it, which I think a lot of times explains some of the unnatural phenomenon, or supernatural phenomenon rather, that we are seeing, or that people have witnesses, people who say that they've seen spirits, ghosts, whatnot. I think that this has to do with having these little glimpses of these other universes or whatnot right alongside us. And it's again, because all the particles are in a quantum state, and these are particles that exist outside of time, that I think there's kind of a sea of the consciousness going on with our own. Like, I have my own consciousness that I think is completely mine, and if there's another me in a subtly different but very close in frequency universe that is also me, if our quantum memories and quantum consciousness also kind of is interchangeable, then it would make sense that there would be times you would see a photograph of yourself and have no memory of that, because that was in that slightly different, universe that was literally right next to us that we can't see or access most of the time. I think that's one theory that's very interesting.
That is a good theory. Is there a name for that?
Yeah.
No, it's just something that I've thought a lot about, and because I learn about the multiverse and how these universes can literally exist alongside us, or even inside us and within it. I mean, we just can't normally access it. So I don't think anybody's named that theory, but it's very interesting.
Hey,
I got a name for it.
E-Man.
I bumped myself.
What'd you say, E-Man? Sorry.
I bumped myself. That's the name of
it. That's actually pretty funny. Thanks, E-Man. I'm going to use that one later.
That's actually great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. Actually, in an observation here. Let me just say this, Charles.
Knowledge.
I noticed that the quantum state exists on a macro level. I've seen it. I've seen it happen. Superposition. I've seen this occur. But I have a theory on this, and I just want to run it by you, Cynthia, and see what you think about it. I have a theory that what this is our soul is connected to everyone, every possible person in every possible universe that's us, and that we're kind of linked all together. And so at times, the superposition, because we're in a superposition, we could literally be everywhere at once,
Yes. You're entangled, right.
Yeah. And because of that, then certain things can occur. We could bounce between universes and not even know it. So therefore we could be sitting here typing, we could be out doing something, we could be, doing 100 things in one shot, and then bam, we'll be back doing what we're doing. But we witness it sometimes,
Right.
or we experience it, and it's kind of like a deja vu experience, where you're like, hold up a minute, You know, I know I was doing something else. I know I've been here before. You know, and I'm just wondering, how often does this occur in everybody's life, or is it just, you know, the people that are observative that see it occurring on a macro scale?
That's a great question, and it seems to me that it's happening in my life at least once a day. Much more than that is probably true, and by that I mean that I'm observing moments where there are that many shifts going on, and this has been happening for a long time, and that's just what I'm aware of. So when we look at nature, we notice macroscopic quantum effects are happening a great deal more than people had ever realized, such as plants photosynthesizing using quantum processes and birds navigating with that. And in fact, our sense of smell also appears to be another quantum process. These are all things I share on my website and also in my books. So it's
Cynthia, I just watched that. I just watched that documentary about the birds.
Yeah. And so I cover all this in my book, Quantum Jumps, and I get into placebo effect also, give a lot of examples, things you can do to literally become smarter, stronger, you know, all that stuff. There are things you can do that don't cost any money at all. Like if you want to feel like you're understanding quantum physics, just point your fingers to your head. That's been proven scientifically to increase your ability to comprehend things. As far as why that's happening, I don't know. You know, but there are lots of things you can do that are just that easy, and we do it all the time. So it's a very normal process. And that's
Cynthia, can I ask a question here really quick? So would you say that we are the alpha consciousness right now?
Oh, you mean as we're talking and carrying on a conversation?
Yeah. Right. I mean, we're aware of what's going on, and what I'm understanding is that there's multiple levels of us. So basically, we're existing in all these different levels of consciousness. But would you consider like us to be the alpha consciousness? Because I'm imagining that there's many of me out there doing whatever else everyone else of me is doing at this very point in time. Or
you're perceiving yourself to be
kind of level of consciousness.
You're perceiving yourself to be.
When we talk about the multiverse, that as those theories and interpretations currently stand, they do not include free will. So there's a bit of a difference. And when we talk about free will and we talk about God and that kind of thing, then we're getting into an optimalization, which has a lot more to do with what you'd call the Copenhagen interpretation, the collapse of the wave function and the observer's effect. So truthfully, you know, we're kind of mixing apples and oranges a little bit here, which is fine. You know, it's okay because we don't have the final say on the final interpretation. When you talk alpha, are we alpha right now? Probably when we meditate a lot like I do, then I'm able to maintain a theta brainwave state even as I'm in an alpha. But I think what you mean by alpha is the alpha, you know, being the primary. Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Okay. Yeah. So in that sense, you can feel where that is of all the possible permutations of you, because in quantum physics, we're looking at possibilities, and it's like your imagination, all these possible realms, which literally can be quite true, and they're very available to us. And so the alpha you is the one where you feel most engaged, the one where you feel most alive. The realities where you don't feel alive and engaged, those might be dead-end realities. So you're actually being called to find the optimal you if you ever feel like you're not fully there, or you know, because sometimes you feel that way.
It can honestly
I have a question for you.
Like knowing that there could be possible 4.3 quintillion versions of yourself out there. You know, that's pretty overwhelming when you think about it. And I had to kind of break in a little bit because we had some questions come through the chat. If you don't mind, guys, is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, we had one Eileen Colts was clarifying her question a little bit. She said, "Tell her about my new tires disappearing off my car." And then the other thing was my apartment building got a new name, and then a year later it went back to its original name and paint colors. And so she was talking about 10% of the time in the past and some in the future, something like that. So some weird disappearances, changes. How could new tires disappear completely off your car, right? So that would have to be something quantum.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that means in terms of past or future. So not clear. Are you guys clear on what that is?
Yeah,
my theory is what I said is I think that we might have shifting consciousness, and that we always perceive ourselves like we're having this conversation right now, and we're all perceiving ourselves to be the alpha consciousness. But if there are other versions of us in these universes that are very, very, very close in vibrational frequency to ours, then, you know, if her alpha consciousness or whatnot was all of a sudden, you know, that might not have happened. She might not have gotten those tires. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I think it explains a lot of the very weird things that are supernatural, or that, like, she bought the tires, the paint colors changed. That I don't think the paint colors changing could be anything but literally a shifting into these other frequencies of universes that are so similar to ours that it's imperceptible to us. And that's why I theorize that our consciousness is kind of just, we always perceive ourselves to be there in reality, but I don't know that it's that simple and we can say that.
Yeah, she wants to know
Right.
the past and the future too. Do you know what she means by the past and the future?
The past and
the future. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to get more clarity on it. Oh, we got Meegs in here. Meegs, hey, what's up, girl?
Oh, what's up,
What's up,
guys?
Meegs?
Hey, Cynthia. How's it going, everyone?
Doing good, Meegs. How are you?
Hi, Meegs.
I'm doing swell.
Feeling
Just fine. Just enjoying the chat with you guys.
Oh man, it's been an interesting show. I asked Lisa how she says a big yes, capital letters yes. She's enjoying herself.
Oh, cool.
I got one
question
for you.
Real quick, I'm sorry to break in again. I'm sorry, guys. We got 2 questions from the chat. What is the best estimate of those affected by the Mandela effect? Raleigh says. The question's for Miss Larson. And Lisa says, ask her about quantum entanglement and twin souls. Is that possible? Go ahead. I'll let you take those.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the first question? Sorry.
What is the best estimate of the worldwide numbers of affected people? Because I could have sworn it was in the millions, but I think I could be wrong. It could be thousands.
There's a difference between, okay, just talk about the kidneys. They've pretty much changed on every single human on the planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what, 7.5 billion?
Right.
But the thing is, when you look at the number of people that admit that they've experienced a Mandela effect, that's different. So it won't be 7.5 billion. Not yet.
Maybe 1%.
All right. And then E-Man, I guess the other question was about twin souls and quantum entanglement in that respect. And then E-Man's question. Go ahead, Cynthia.
I'm not sure what you mean by the twin souls, the entanglement, but probably if you believe in twin souls, then you understand that there is an entanglement between 2 people on a very strong level. So to the degree that you might know someone when you first meet them and feel like you've known them forever.
I mean, honestly, that's the way I feel about a lot of you guys here and a lot of you guys in the chat. I feel like we've known each other, it seems like, our whole lives. Like we seem like we're entangled together, maybe.
Yeah,
I
think so.
It sort of feels like that. I feel like a general sign of relief here. Like whenever we are speaking live on these shows. So yeah, I'll go ahead. I'm sorry. Whoever was next.
You know what? I used to love science, and I love watching Star Trek. So maybe this is one of my tracky questions. This is one of these my tracky question. Why right now it seems like our world is breaking down, and it's really breaking down bad. And so is this quantum entanglement? Are we causing something to resonate out of the earth that shouldn't, or are we off balance with the magnetosphere? Because our world is talking. I mean, we have earthquakes, and the world is splitting up, and America is shrinking. And I remember watching a show on Star Trek where they were talking about quantum entanglement and how the world was collapsing, and everybody was disappearing because the amount of people that was on the earth when I used to remember is shrinking. The size of things are shrinking.
Wait, the size of what?
So why are we collapsing on each other? I mean, collapsing. Why are
The size of states, size of countries, the amount of people that were on the planet are not the amount that is on the planet.
Right. In the distance, like I used to drive to Memphis, and it used to be 819 miles, and now it's only 534.
It's actually a good question. You know, I'm noticing like, you know, and I follow Lone Eagle quite a bit. He does a lot of continental shifts.
Yes.
And he talks about a lot of new land that appears, a lot of, you know, things that are receding as well. So, you know, we're seeing, you know, different areas enlarging. Like, for example, the United States appears to be growing, whereas you know, Canada used to be one of the largest, you know, countries out there. And now Canada is almost like I mean, it's disappearing vastly. I mean, it's you know, it's getting very, very tiny. Russia has expanded. China has shrunk significantly. You know, so there's a lot of different variances in the lands that are growing and shrinking. So it's just different areas that are showing that actually.
China tiny now. It's ridiculous looking.
Yeah,
Well, I have theories about that too. You want to hear my theory on that one?
Yeah.
My theory is also that consciousness, our consciousness and our thoughts of, I'm not sure that we can say that consciousness manifests reality because we don't necessarily have control over it, but I definitely think it plays a part in it. And I think now one of the reasons that we're so aware of the Mandela effect is because of the gift of the internet and connecting with other people and being able to find other people at first on an anonymous basis because nobody wanted to think they were crazy, and then connecting on a personal level to you find enough people who say, yes, I've experienced this too. Mm-hmm. And then you can form groups and you keep it secret for a while, and then you make it open because you realize this is a large scale phenomenon that a lot of people are experiencing, and you stop being ashamed of the fact that you're crazy, right? So I think that that's part of it, is that we just have the ability now to connect with others who have experienced this. And the other thing is, I think that because of the media and the news cycles and what goes on in the world and what we see, the negative things also affect our perceptions. And that as, you know, we perceive things to be getting worse, I think that that might have something to do with the world's population as a whole. We have a collective consciousness. I agreed with what that man said about the fact that we're all connected and that we've always been connected. We're in a sense, we've, you know, always been connected to each other. I don't know how else to put it. Entangled, you could say, because at the moment of the Big Bang, we were all smushed together at the size of an atom or smaller, or perhaps even created out of nothingness itself, which means that at one point, everything we experience in our physical reality, the universe on the grand scale, was on a subatomic level. And it was possible that because at the moment of the Big Bang, we were all entangled. And so if we are connected with each other and we do have a collective consciousness that we kind of return to after we pass away from our physical reality, then I think that as our physical thoughts, the thoughts that we're having, the world's getting worse. Oh my gosh, there are all these wars. I didn't like this election result, or whatever it is that we're experiencing. And these negative thoughts, I think, almost affect reality.
It does. It does. You see, I think it affects how you drive. It affects the words that you say to the loved ones and everything else. It does have an effect. I've noticed that when I get more in the light, the less the dark is. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I've heard this Indian thing about two wolves. You feed whichever wolf, the good wolf or the bad wolf, whichever one you feed the most is the one which you become, pretty much.
Right. And right now, the world, a lot of times, I think, has a negative worldview, and people perceive that things are getting worse and the planet's getting overpopulated and that we're running out of natural resources and there's so many wars. And I think that collective consciousness actually affects reality.
Well, you know, they said, is this a Mandela effect or what? They said we were going to run out of gasoline by the year 2000, and what happened? We still
Nothing.
have gasoline today, and the gas prices are back down low, back below $3 a gallon in most areas.
Well, we also have fracking now. We didn't used to have fracking.
Oh wow!
I have one more question. I know I'm gonna have way more than one more question. I don't know why I keep saying that.
Oh, go ahead.
I got another question.
I do that too. You guys know that.
I got another question on my head then. Okay. How sure, and this for everybody on the panel, but the science people that study this, how sure from a percentage standpoint are you on the theory that the Mandela effect is 100% causing it, or 10% or 20%? What is your percentage on the cause? Are you sure it's 100%, or how sure are you?
Wait, what on the cause?
How sure on the theory that you present is the accurateness? Meaning the percentage of your I mean, you know how you say, I'm very confident. Is you 100% confident that it's the quantum state, or are you maybe 30 or 20%? You know, because I know I'm an open-minded person, and I know I can't be 100% on nothing. I know I'm about 20 here, 20 there, 20 there, 20 there. But how confident are you on the theory that you perceive?
Cynthia, you want to take that?
Yeah, well, right now I'm really confident. I'd say about 95% that we definitely are witnessing quantum macroscopic effects. And the reason I wasn't that way 20 years ago. It has taken me time to adjust to what I've been observing and to really, kind of feel comfortable with it, because it can be disconcerting, to say the least. But the reason I say that is because when I look into the quantum physics, I recognize that the true nature of reality is that it's built on what we would never call real. So, we look at an atom, it's made of things that look imaginary almost. And when we get to the core of it, I believe what we're seeing is consciousness itself. So that tells us that it's very much like what you might hear in the spiritual traditions, that everything is made of love, that everything is made of pure energy, and it's made of thought. And I'd say
I agree with her also on that 100%.
Yeah,
I agree with her completely. I think that everything that she said is 100% correct, and I think that the quantum aspects of it are exactly what we're experiencing, and how this is happening and how we're actually seeing it. But it's very important to me that I feel like that is grounded also in what science is showing. There are tons of science articles out there now showing all this. That quantum physics is well understood now. And if you study it, it is the only thing that can possibly explain it, in my opinion.
And actually, that's what I do in my, if you go to realityshifters.com, it's free. And you can read all the newsletters I've written. And I've also written books about it. So
I'm definitely going to.
Yeah.
I think that the quantum effect, or the Mandela effect, if you will, I think that it's a combination of things. I don't think it's any one thing. I think that, there are multiple things going on at the same time. Now, yes, we possibly could be in superposition. Yes, we possibly could be, experiencing a quantum state. But I also believe that it's possible for this quantum state to be induced. And I believe that, there's some aspects, some people that are attempting to do this. And I've seen enough evidence to support it. That very least they're trying to control our minds, our experiences. Now I don't know to what level they've they've been able to do that, but I do know that it's somebody else, trying to affect that quantum state. And
Who is
whether
they?
they do it, I'll go with they being the elite people on the planet, the people that have the most money, the people that are in charge, who have always been in charge.
The most
And,
influence.
Yeah, they're the ones that are trying to affect it. Now, as far as how much effect they have, that I can't answer, but I can say that I've seen enough, at least enough evidence to show that somebody is attempting to do this. Now, I don't know who that. Again, it goes back to, who has the most money usually has the most influence. So,
can I ask how are they able to affect the quantum state and
yes.
control it?
Yeah. I'm
Because
glad
they
you
got
asked.
quantum computers.
I'm glad you asked. I don't think it's quantum computers. I think it's something else.
It's us.
I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% sure. There are technologies that they're working on right now in black ops projects.
It's the flu
control
shots.
People's
Or the flu shots.
Yeah, well, that's one thing, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about there are like mind control projects. There are different kinds of projects that they've been working on in black ops areas to do this for years. They've been looking for a way to control people's minds, people's perceptions. And it's to the point now where it's obvious that they're doing it. So the question is, to what extent are they doing that? To what extent are they controlling people's realities? Because look, if your perception controls reality and they can control your perception, then they can control reality.
And you know where I'm gonna go.
And so, but I'm saying, but what I'm trying to say is, if your perception is what controls quantum reality, and they can control your perception of reality, then they control quantum reality.
But by its
know?
very definition, quantum state cannot be defined.
Now watch this.
No. Hold on. What I'm trying to say is this: your perception controls quantum reality for you. Okay, so for instance, if we're always changing, if we're always shifting between states, then it's your perception of those states that cause the shift. But what if someone has the ability to control your perception of those states?
Yes.
Then by definition, they control the quantum shifts because they can control it for you.
All right. What I can say is there's a difference between the words control and effect. I think that consciousness can have an effect on, especially when a large group of people who are conscious minds, there's groupthink. I'm sure you've heard the term. And, that collective consciousness. I think that our consciousness and our thoughts can affect reality. I do not think that is something at all that is capable of being controlled. Not at this time. We don't understand enough about it. And because quantum, when you look at quantum physics is literally like all possibilities that are possible can exist at the same time or none of them, and anything in between. Right.
Yes, I understand.
So, do you see what I'm saying though? Is that if all possibilities are possible, then how can they possibly narrow it down and control it?
Well, here's how they do it. I have been following patents on mind control techniques from the 1950s on, and they have been trying. They have been trying. Well, it's not even the CIA; it's above them. They have been trying to control people's realities since the 50s. Now they started out with very infantile things like LSD and actually physically touching parts of the brain with electrodes. But
Television.
now they've come up with ways to send waves over antennas, over cell antennas, to piggyback radio waves, to piggyback TV waves, to get into your home and affect you. Now, obviously, they do misinformation. They do different things on a physical level. You know, they've during the time of Obama, they okayed propaganda to be used against the American people. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about energetic waves on different levels, low level waves, different electromagnetic frequencies, and all of these things are used. All of these things have patents, and they're being used.
Yes.
For the ability to control our perception. Okay. Now, if they're trying to control our perception, there must be a reason behind that. It must be important for them that if they can make you believe a certain thing, and they can make enough people believe a certain thing, then perhaps that reality becomes a reality.
Yeah, it's
you know
like
what I mean?
Distraction. Like they're trying to distract maybe from
That's it.
something. It's like the man. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Is that
right? You know, if they can control enough people's perception, then perhaps they control the quantum state. You know what I mean? And you know, granted, I mean, I know that some people think that, you know, this quantum state is uncontrollable, but if it's connected to our perception of it, then if you control enough people's perception, you control that quantum state. And so you have the ability to shift, or you have the ability to change things on a minor scale or on a macro scale, even.
You know what I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
You know exactly what I'm about to go.
But this is my theory. This is my theory. It has, you know, I can't prove it yet, but I've seen enough patents. I've seen enough evidence now that I can at least say, you know, theoretically, it's being done.
Is it possible that they're needing it in case there's a future like zombie apocalypse? Let's say, you know, that like they're
trying to cause it. I think they're trying to cause it zombie apocalypse.
Trying to cause it.
I think that's why they putting these particles in our brain, so that when it's time for them to take these 5G technology that they in so of a hurry to put up. And if anybody know about the 5G technology, it takes you got to have a tower every 400 to 500 feet, and so that means it's all around you, and so they can target whoever they want to target. And then and just like the Harold was saying, they got stuff like the active denial system, where they tell you they can take these satellites and they can burn your skin. They tell you this.
I'm sorry. Can I ask who was the person who just explained the theory?
Harold.
That was Harold.
Okay. All right. I was just trying to follow along.
It's okay. Meegs just joined us. We didn't get to hear from her. Meegs, you deal a lot with this like targeted individuals and stuff like that. Is that part? The question is, I guess. Well, you want to go ahead, Meegs?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, it's worth addressing, you know, all this stuff because we are under a system of control, and a lot of people who study this and look at all the evidence and sometimes like just boldly put out in court documents and white pages from our government. It talks directly about a system of control and an organized system of depopulation. Mind control has been a huge area of study and experimentation from
and I'm not doubting that. I know that actually. I do know that they have extensive operations that are secret that the government has tried to do over many, many years to try to figure out a way to do that. I'm agreeing with that part. Where I think I differ from this entire theory is that I believe in the higher power, and I think that God is a higher power, for lack of a better term. I don't think of God as the biblical old man who's like watching us over in the clouds. I don't think of it like that. I think that there's a higher power that is love. I think God is love is probably the most truthful statement in the entire Bible. And I think the Bible was written by men. I do definitely believe in God. And I think Jesus Christ existed. And I think that also there were other spiritual figures in different religions. And I think that those were sent to earth by God to help us learn more about God and connect with God. But that's, I think, what has happened. But what I think, God is a higher power to me, and God is pure love. That's it, pure love and good. And there's no thing that man can invent that will overpower God.
Whoa. Wait. I got to disagree with that.
Okay.
And the only reason I say
You think that God is less powerful than man?
No. Listen, the only reason I'm disagreeing with that is because God says He created everything. He created good and evil. We always say He's pure love. No, God get angry. God destroys.
5-7.
He's right. He ain't just. He created
I create the
everything.
evil. I
See, the problem is we try to put him in a box of He just love. Matter of fact, that's why I always go back to the biblical account, because everything that we are perceiving has already been written. Everything that's going on right now, even with the speeding up of technology, it's in the Bible. Even with
how are you not affected? How are you immune to the mind control?
Even but see, the Bible says the Bible says it's going to be a time. The Bible says it's going to become a time where the enemy has to do his bidding. And the only way that the devil can do his bidding, he has to be in control of devices. That's why God said we can't be ignorant of the devil's devices. Well, so everything is not always spiritual. And see, the devil is not coming like Jesus did as a baby. He's coming through these technologies that I believe that higher authorities or spiritual beings have given instructions to build what they don't understand. So
yeah, I hear the theory. I think that my view is a little bit different than I think. Go ahead.
It's fine. We can respect other people's opinions. It's fine.
And I do respect that. I just don't think of
when he putting his little pieces in the places like a what they call that a puzzle or chess. You put all your pieces in place, and when it's time, you strike. And so, all of us may be right. I mean, that's why I say I'm not 100% saying nobody's wrong. All of us, it could be quantum entanglement, quantum mechanics. It can be all of that. Go ahead,
guys. I think Charles had something to say real quick, and then I got to ask a question from the chat.
Okay,
Charles, go ahead, Charles. Sorry.
Well, I just wanted to say that soul means one, and we are one. And basically, when we were one, in order to gain experience or knowledge, we had to separate into two, which is why cells divide into two. The strongest force is one, one cell, and it splits. So one became the observer, and we are kind of like the observers gaining experience because we are multi-dimensional beings. And I actually wanted to show a little clip of a video that a friend of mine put out that could give an idea of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So I hope you don't mind.
Yeah. Do you want to share it on the screen or?
Something
that's
simply incredible. We found that the shape of the universe exists inside of the eye. From eclipses of the moon, we found the sun. We found the rainbows. We also found the floating planets above us.
Wow.
In stillness. We found the four muscles of the eye, which are the four pillars of the world, as well as hell, the iris below, the pupil, the dark pit, and there's so much more, and I can't wait to show each and every one of you.
Well, you should go check that video out. That's just an idea. I'll show you the channel real quick.
creator of our universe.
All right, watch this. It's about,
would you mind? Can you post that in the
about
chat?
20, the chat.
Yeah. Just
I could send it to you to Messenger if you want me to, so that way you could, I don't know how to do the links.
Well, listen, guys, Cynthia has to take off soon. We had a question since Lisa Payne. She was asking, okay, how old was she when she realized she lived science and wanted to major in physics?
Oh, okay. Well, I was a little girl when I got interested in science because I wanted to know the nature of reality, and I was fascinated by it. So, but then I didn't know what that was. It took me a while to choose physics as a major, which I studied at UC Berkeley. And I'm still active in scientific communities, such as honoring American physicist Henry Stapp, who has a wonderful classic interpretation of the quantum physics. And I'm working on presenting papers and in those venues and that sort of thing right now. So, but what was the other part of the question about?
Let's see. I'm bringing it up now. Hold on. Okay. And you. Okay. So, how old were you? Were you when you realized you wanted to live science and wanted to major in physics? So, I think that was a one question.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it unfolded.
Yes. I'm
glad to meet you.
Yes, I'm really glad that you could join us tonight. And I really, right before I want to share your website with everyone, but I wanted to share a couple things too, with one being from Back to the Future and one from the Hulk. If you guys remember the intro from the Hulk, I think I kind of exaggerate a little bit. They didn't ruin my show. It's just the very beginning part seems like it changed. I want you to notice something about this very beginning part, the Hulk intro. Right there. You see it? What's different about it?
I didn't see it.
You know I'm big on logos. Guys. Yes.
Oh, that's weird.
What is that?
That is so weird.
Broken R.
Whoa.
There's residue if you look right here in the Hulk from Family Guy. Look at the R, not broken. And they do it exactly like I remember.
Why would they do one letter broken?
I know, that was just too weird. I know, it just freaked me out. I watched it. And then there's this one part in Back to the Future, just in the opening scene, about 1 minute and 1 second in, and you see Doc Emmett Brown, or what resembles him, hanging from the watch hands. Do you guys see that? The clock hands? Wow.
Wow.
I'm going to play it just a little bit back.
I think somebody playing with us. They playing with us.
Do you remember this scene, guys? The opening scene being like that with the man hanging from the
watch hands, like foreshadowing or whatever?
Yes.
No. What?
It's in there now.
Somebody playing with us. The super
center of the screen. Everybody would have seen that.
Yes.
Superposition. What?
That proves
somebody playing with us.
Doc.
That's so weird.
I know.
When did you catch that?
I didn't catch that. Someone else did, and I don't remember the name of the person, so I'm sorry. Forgive me. But it's not my find.
I'm about to go look at that on my DVD. I'm about to look at that on my DVD.
Yes.
Can you send me that later? Because I didn't get to see it. I somehow got myself to where I can only hear if I have my ear to the phone.
It's okay. Yeah, I'll send you that video.
And Cynthia also, Cynthia,
yes.
Are you still with us?
Yes.
I was just wondering, I would be thrilled to speak to you more about this stuff. When you have to get off, are you going to bed, or do you have to
I have to check in on another show, believe it or not, because Whitley Strieber is broadcasting an interview that I was on. I contributed a chapter to a book called Born Aware by Diane Brandon, and that that conversation is happening right now, and it just
I had no idea you were a physics major. I like have a million more questions for you now. So is there any way I could connect to you on Facebook or anything?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, but the best thing is email me, and that's Cynthia@realityshifters.com.
Okay.
Well,
I will do that.
Thank you so much, Cynthia, for joining us. And
thank you so much, Cynthia. It was wonderful hearing from you.
It was such a pleasure to be on the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia.
Lisa, thanks you too.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night, Cynthia.
Good night.
Bye.
We love everything you do.
Hey, we're still on, you guys. We got a little bit more time.
Hey.
I'm still tripping over the new sequence, the new intro.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, definitely.
What's up,
That's
Tom?
weird.
Yeah.
Hey, how you feeling
Tom.
tonight?
Hey, what's going on, Tom?
All right.
Hey, Tom.
Hey,
that should
hey
be
everybody.
I said
Mom,
that.
did you see the Back to the Future intro? That Brian.
Yeah,
Brian,
I
play
saw
it
that
again.
yesterday where he's hanging on the clock, but you notice a picture of that clock was like black and white. It was more like a picture, right?
That looks like it was an insert. Come on, that was not
Yeah.
All right, do it again. Do it again, Brian. Do it
Wait a
again.
minute, I'm about to go put it on my TV. Hold on, I got it on my TV.
I want to
And I'm
see
about
it.
to look
Bring
at
it.
it
Bring it close. Bring it close.
Okay, right here.
Again.
Leah Thompson. The part where it says Leah Thompson. You see that?
Oh,
Where?
Yeah, that's really weird.
Oh, that was not
No, I don't. I don't. Oh, Crispin Glover.
right there with the cat clock and the owl.
no way.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
about to go
really
put it on my
bizarre.
TV on DVD. I got the
An owl
DVD.
clock, dog clock.
Not to mention, he has a different guitar.
Right? It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
weird,
Yeah,
like,
Where?
little tiny
No.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
that's so silly.
That's so stupid.
Like a ukulele guitar.
Yeah, that's so stupid.
But that's not the one he had. That's not the one he had playing on the stage,
No.
is it?
Not even close.
That's
No.
in the beginning. That's in the
No,
beginning.
he had a white one, didn't he? Didn't he have
I thought
something
he had,
like
I thought he had a
a?
red one in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Mahogany or
Yeah,
something.
but it was. You know what it was? It was like one of those really fancy AC/DC kind of guitars with it like kind of jutting out. It was like a rock star one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ah, that's
He put his-
crazy.
and he put his
that's
shades on.
nuts. Yeah, that's so crazy.
Oh.
Wow.
I'm about to go check that
Yeah.
out on DVD right now. I'm putting it on my TV right now. I'm
Yeah,
about
that's
to check this
that's so
out.
bizarre.
That is ridiculous.
So
Yeah,
I have a question. I have a question too, Brian. You know, you obviously a lot of people here know that of Art Bell.
Yeah, he died.
Well, you know, he died recently. You know,
Yeah.
I heard that he died in Pahrump. The thing that I have a problem with is that, you know, I remember he left the show. It was, you know, and of course George Norrie took it over. But the thing is that he had disappeared for a long time, and the story was that he actually moved out to the Philippines with his girlfriend and wasn't heard from for a long time. Nobody knew where he was, and now all of a sudden he emerges in Pahrump. I had a problem with that. I wanted to find out if anybody else had the same kind of recollection that I did, or if they always knew that he was in Pahrump.
Wait, or if they always knew he was a what?
Oh, because he died in Pahrump. Now, ironically, my folks, they actually live out there in Pahrump, Nevada. I probably would have heard something from them that they live like in the same area as Art Bell, which I never did. I never heard anything about that. And my father, he was also, you know, he was a contract negotiator, lit missile guidance control systems, had top security clearance at Area 51, which, by the way, from my recollection, was always in New Mexico, never in Nevada. That also was another big change. But the point is that Art Bell recently died in Pahrump, Nevada. The thing that I always heard that was that he left the show,
There you go.
and he basically wanted nothing else to do with the show. He moved to the Philippines with his girlfriend. He just wanted peace and quiet, and he just basically disappeared. And now he just emerges dead in Pahrump, Nevada, which is right there next to Area 51. Does anybody have that recollection?
No.
Nope. No.
But I only heard about Coast to Coast like when I woke up to the Mandela effect and stuff. So
Okay.
I'm not the best person.
I used to follow Art Bell quite a bit. You know, he used to do a lot of the conspiracy things, a whole different gamut. He was actually really good. But then he left the show, and George Norrie took his seat. And you know, but from what, and in fact, even George Norrie had made a comment. You know, several. He's made several comments. He was always wondering where Art Bell was. And the story was that yeah. In fact, you know, the comment was, or at least the idea that Art Bell had taken his girlfriend and they moved off to the Philippines, and that's where he was living. But now he emerges in Pahrump, which is ironic because, I mean, you know, it was unknown. It was a well-known thing that, you know, he just, well, number one, that, you know, he left. He wanted nothing more to do with the show. He wanted to live, you know, in his own little solitude. But, you know, he went silent from the radio for a long time. And, you know, he had a Philippine girlfriend and he went off to the Philippines and that's where he was living. And he just went silent. And now he emerges in Pahrump, Nevada. You know, I guess he died somehow. I don't know what the causes were, but maybe old age. But the fact is that I would have known that.
Yeah,
I would have known that he would have been wrong.
That is,
you know
bizarre.
what I mean? It's very strange. It's very, very strange. Anyways, I just thought I'd throw it out there. I want to see if maybe if anyone in the chat may have something along the same line.
Does anyone want to comment on that? And then I got to ask a question for our nurse. I got a question from Lisa. Okay, but go ahead. Anyone want to comment?
I really want to look into that more now, like why he went to the Philippines.
Well, and not only that, but remember, if people even remember, Area 51 being in New Mexico.
Oh yeah. I have two people in my life that remember it that way, and one is so freaked out that it moved that she can't even like talk about it. But
you would think it wasn't it? Wouldn't it be near Roswell where they found the alien?
Exactly, Brian. Exactly. That's exactly my point. That's where they have all the alien. I mean, they you know, they have a lot of shops over there. Their whole like source of like revenue comes from, you know, alien type of like, you know, dolls and, you know, maps and all the other little knickknacks they're gonna, you know, tout about their Area 51. And now it's just like, you know, it's not even there. But see, the thing that I remember is that there used to be a giant lake in New Mexico. They used to be on all the maps. And once Area 51 took it over, that lake disappeared.
Oh,
it was just gone. And now that whole story it's not even there anymore. It just never happened. But I remember this very vividly because there was like documentaries on it. There was a lot of talk about this. And now, you know, it's so funny because this happened back in 2009, which maybe it superseded my original thought of which I thought the Mandela effect actually started, because I was actually out there in Pahrump and my father was telling me that on the other side of the mountain was Area 51. And I just chalked it up to old age because, again, you know, him being from, you know, the military background, he had top security clearance. He had told me many times that he'd been up to Area 51, just right there next to Roswell. He has told me that, but now the story's completely changed. So, you know, it's strange. It's very odd that now it just happened to appear in Nevada, and so his story that he told me, you know, was actually completely true. I just figured, he has no idea what he's talking about. He's getting old.
We had a thing here, a very amazing comment here. This one's from Scrappy Yap. Meegs, your testimony and your bravery of showing your artwork as an atheist is such an amazing change to the glory of Jesus Christ within you now.
Oh, I'm just now typing to him. Thank you, Scrappy. That's so nice of you to say that. Yeah, that's so sweet of you, because I just think about that all the time, like how close we can be, you know, if we don't know God, how close we can be to the wrong path, like the way wrong path, you know. So I don't know. I think I praise God for steering me in the right direction, the direction of truth. So thank you for having me.
Amen. Amen. And you know, we always welcome, different opinions on our show, and I think it's great. It gets everyone talking and everything. The other thing, Lisa had a question for Jessica. She said, ask her if it'd be okay. Wait, hold on. Hang on. Okay, microbiology. Okay. From her knowledge, and this would also be for Cynthia, I'm sure, too. She wanted to know. But how viruses and other pathogens mutate. She says, I have a theory about them on a quantum level. Wonder if you could help answer that one a little bit, Jessica. Do you know anything about that? Like viruses on a quantum level, maybe? Are you there? Jessica?
I see she's still here. She just, she's probably
She's on mute. She's probably trying to pull it off mute.
Yeah, there you go. She might be AFK right now.
Jessica?
I hear her talking, I think. Unmute.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Oh, you're off mute now, Jessica.
You might have to come off and come back on.
Is this better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Am I here?
Yes,
okay.
Yep, we're here.
All right. So the question.
Hi.
All right. Was the question? Did this person ask? Was it a she or he?
It's a she. It's my girlfriend. She wanted to ask a question.
Okay. She asked from a quantum perspective. Is that how viruses mutate or bacteria? What was the question exactly?
Viruses and pathogens do you think maybe they mutate on a quantum level? Is there something that goes on that we don't know behind the scenes with viruses and bacteria, and like on the quantum level?
On a quantum level, I'm very familiar with microbiology. I took the courses and I've also studied them. On a quantum level, I'm not sure as far as whether it's a quantum effect or not, but we do know that they are able to mutate a lot more easily. It's more easily observed and on a shorter scale than an evolutionary scale with like human beings. We don't see humans being mutated on a regular basis as far as from a scientific perspective. So I do know that all particles, we are all made up of particles. Every single living and what we consider inanimate and non-living organism is made up of particles. And because we are all particles, we are all affected by a quantum state. So that would extend to pathogens and viruses and bacteria as well. And I think that viruses have evolved to be able to mutate more quickly. Whether or not that is a quantum capability, I'm not sure, because we know that DNA can mutate over time as well. So I'm not sure whether that's related, whether it's done on a quantum. I think everything is on a quantum level. All particles are, and we can see it on a macroscopic level. So there's absolutely no reason why the quantum state wouldn't apply to viruses and bacteria as well. But I just think that that's also an evolutionary capability that viruses and bacteria have developed, if I answered the question. I hope that was the right. I think that was the question that was being posed. So I hope I've answered it.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
It's fine. No, go ahead.
I have a question. When did this word quantum entanglement, quantum mechanics first start? Because I ain't heard this word all my life. This is just a recent word.
It's actually not recent at all. This has been something that has been well studied, and it's grounded in science that everybody who knows about science actually accepts. So this is what's weird. And I think that maybe at the beginning of the show, it would have been better if we had started by explaining what the quantum process is, because we never really explained that. And also the word entanglement, we were using it a lot, but I don't even think people understood exactly what that meant. On a quantum level, you're talking about subatomic level, and this can be replicated with whole atoms and even sometimes molecules. There's something that was very famous called the double slit experiment that occurred, I believe, in the 20s,
Thank you.
1920s, 1930s, 40s. It's definitely. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, Jessica, I'm glad
sorry.
you mentioned that. I was going to
It's
repeat
at
that
least
experiment.
okay. Well, it's at least 80 years that they have seen this. And when it first came out, nobody understood how this could be, and so obviously it got replicated. And that's the wonderful thing about this is that we have this Mandela effect, and we can't replicate this for other people, and people either see it or they don't, and so we can't prove anything. But on a quantum level, we can prove this. And what it means is with a double slit experiment, you can shoot a single particle that is a ball of matter, what we consider matter. You know, like a rock is matter, okay? A tree is matter. We are matter, you know? And then on a subatomic level, you can take what is matter that cannot be broken down, and it's not like water that travels in waves. We think of, you know, you talked about radio waves, you talked about different infrared and the electromagnetic spectrum. And so we think of that as something that travels in a wave because it's not physical matter. But they can actually take physical matter on a small scale, and they will shoot these particles one at a time to like a piece of lead, something it cannot travel through. And there will be an opening. If you do it with just one opening, all of the particles of matter that make it through that slit show up in one line on the screen where it hits the detector screen at the and I don't want to use the word detector because that'll confuse people, but it behaves like you would expect. If you threw a tennis ball through a slit, then it would go through the slit if it makes it through, and it would hit in one area behind it. And so they did this with 2 slits. And then you would think, again, with tennis balls, if you're throwing one tennis ball through, and you might make it through one slit and you might make it through the other, but you would see it hit a screen behind those slits, like several feet back or whatever. It would hit in one area or it would hit in the other. But with these particles, when they fired them one at a time, they saw what's called constructive and destructive interference, which it's a little bit complicated. You probably have to watch a video to understand this, but it means that it showed up in several different places. And they're like, well, how is this happening? Because that's what we would see if we had waves going through these slits. This isn't something that we can do with a tennis ball, right? So they decided, well, we have to see what's going on. And they put a detector so that they could see which slit it went through. But when they put the detector there, it changed its behavior. Matter changed its behavior. A tennis ball changed its behavior because it was being observed, because it was being watched. And that was completely a wild idea that doesn't fit with any law of physics that we know, because we could see the tennis ball hitting in different areas and also simultaneously interacting with itself and canceling out in other areas. So they didn't understand how this could be. And this experiment has been done in so many different ways. They've ruled out the detector interfering with it. But the bottom line is that if a person or a conscious mind is observing, matter will behave the way we expect it to. And when we are not watching, it will not. It changes its behavior as though it's aware it's being watched. It's a very wild idea.
And so that's what led people to believe that we live in a simulation. Because if you look at a computer simulation, the same exact things occur. When the portion of the computer simulation is being used, it acts one way, but when we're not using it, it conserves energy and it doesn't act in that particular fashion. So it led to the belief that perhaps we're living in some sort of a simulation.
That's right. That is one theory. That's one theory. The multiverse is another theory. And the multiverse theory goes along the lines of, okay, you threw the tennis ball, and in the universe line that you're watching, you saw it hit here, but in the other universe lines, it hit every other place. In each individual universe, it chose a different path. So in other words, the universe is exploring every single possibility. So every time you make a decision, every time any particle hits another particle, there's a possibility of what could happen. And it's splitting us into more and more world lines. That's the multiple universe theory. And so the simulation theory, the only thing about the simulation theory is it can't be proven, and it can't be disproven.
And
So-
they can't really prove the multiverse theory either. That's the problem. It's called a theory for a reason.
They also have
See,
string
that's-
theory. String theory is another perfectly accepted theory.
Yeah,
But
yeah, a theory, but it's not proven. See, that's the problem.
Right.
If it's proven, then it would become a law, and
Right.
it's not. So unfortunately, I mean, I started out with the multiverse theory, and I looked over it, I thought about it, you know, and yeah, it seems reasonable, but unfortunately, so does the simulation theory.
The
It seems
ancestor
reasonable.
simulation, right.
Yeah, it seems reasonable, but unfortunately, you know, you can't prove it. And until we can find a way to prove it, you know,
Right.
I mean, it's right in a list with a bunch of others.
Right. Well, there's several different. That's the thing. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna check this out. Now, what y'all described just a minute ago, if what we are watching, like you say, it changes, but when we look at it, it don't behave that way. It's like, why is it hiding itself? Why would
well, that
why
part,
would it hide itself?
that
seems-
part,
that seems kind of spooky.
right.
That seems
Well,
kind of
exactly.
spooky.
You know what? Right, and exactly what you just said. It's the entanglement is actually called spooky action at a distance by Einstein. And Einstein was like, I'd like to think that if I'm not looking at the moon, it's still there, because quantum physics is showing us that it might not be there unless somebody was looking at it, because that's what quantum physics kind of suggests, is that reality is not what we think of. Did I get cut off? You there?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Are you still there?
I think that's what I was saying earlier when I started the first time. Some of this is so out there that we all have pieces, but nobody has a working model. We just have
quantum physics is well proven.
We have a whole lot of hypotheses, but quantum physics may be proven as far as what they know, but they can't. I mean,
they can't explain it.
Right. It's not explainable. It can't be tied to a certain thing. It can only be proven of what they observe.
Right, so, but what I'm trying to say though is the quantum, what I just described, the double slit experiment, that is very grounded, well-established, accepted science, and there is no doubt that it's happening. What the theories arise from is how it's happening. And there are, like I said, string theory, the multiverse theory, the ancestor simulation theory. There are lots of different theories about how it's happening. And some people have even said that matter is both simultaneously a particle and a wave.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Well,
also, you guys know what we did with the laser? This is actually, you can do this at home. You can repeat the experiment.
Yeah, the double slit experiment.
Take a CD, right?
Hey, okay.
You take a CD and break it in half, where you only have the clear part, because this is pitted. It's lined with lots of little small pits, different sizes, and you can perform the experiment very well. Now, I made my own little slits just to have some fun with some utility knife. But anyway, so you can shine the light through there. You'll see light splitting different intervals, and then it changes in a flash of an eye.
Tom, could you mute your mic, please?
Sure.
Yeah. Tom? Okay. Yeah, guys, Bluebeard wants in. This would be a good time for him to come in about science experiments. You guys. So I'm trying to.
Yeah, I'm still here. Mm-hmm.
Hey, I got one thing to say.
Bluebeard, it's going to be great.
Go ahead. Say it, Tom.
Okay. Yeah, the one thing I was going to say is how, like a simulator universe, you heard about Planck's length and Planck's time. Well, they say that's the smallest bit, as you would call, resolution in the universe as far as Planck's time, where it takes the speed of light going across it. So they say that this whole universe or everything works very similar to computer programming, although it's not a computer, of course. But that's one element. Then they talk about free will and non-determinism, where your consciousness is that element that can actually control whatever matter in the universe.
Right.
You know, like metaphysics and all this, and then you heard about the book The Secret and the Rice experiment, showing that consciousness has a degree of interaction or control of it, and consciousness is the only thing that's outside of what this universe is. That's the reason why people can remember Residue or the way it used to be, because your consciousness kind of shielded from being rewritten by the natural wave or whatever the Mandela effect does. And also quantum entanglement means you change one thing in one part of the universe, affects it at the same time. So it has nothing to do with the speed of light or it's outside of it. And then you had a retro causality with the particles. You split them, and you know, and so even time itself falls in the same thing.
Are you Blackbeard? Is that your name on here?
No. Oh no, I'm Digital.
What was your name?
DigitalScribe.
Right. And what you're saying, though, is above so many people who are listening's heads. I'm familiar with all the stuff you're saying, but I don't think they all the listeners are.
Yeah, and then they talk about reality, like you've seen the golden ratio, golden mean, like the perfect ratios they were called, and everything in this universe. They say that patterns throughout quantum mechanics as well as classical physics.
Right, supersymmetry.
The same pattern, the same number system, where it's two different sizes.
Binary.
But
yeah, it's binary, right?
Yeah, and that's another thing. We get right down to the bit resolution. They can't cut Planck's length in half because it doesn't make any sense. That's why it's the smallest part.
Right, and they've shown that. Huh?
And also one thing too, like I used to believe real heavily in parallel universes, but when I really look at quantum mechanics, I think they get like all these multi-dimensions, and they kind of think that is the wave probability of quantum mechanics. They get that kind of like confused where it's not multiple dimensions, is we have that multiple possibility of being whatever. But since our consciousness is here, our existence around us is the one that's collapsing a wave. That's the reason why when we get together, we have the same thing. But when we're separate, we kind of have a little different experience along with other people.
Can I have a question? I have a question for you about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's two things. On the CMB, do you know what I'm talking about, the cosmic microwave background?
Yeah, I heard of that.
I was going to ask you if you knew what your theory was about the cold spot on the CMB, because they're thinking that might be the first evidence of another universe.
I'm not really sure. I think I might have heard something about that, but
I actually heard about it, and they did say that it might be, the first evidence, but they didn't say that they could prove it. They just said it might not.
But I thought it was interesting.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Right. And the other thing I had to ask about is, I'm sorry, Mr. Virgil. The other question I had was, when they repeat the double slit experiment multiple times, and you know how they can do it the retroactive way, the quantum eraser. Right. Okay, so they do this, and they've already shown the detector has nothing to do with it, and it seems to be like retroactive back in time. But if they do the experiment enough, what I think is interesting is that every mathematical possibility happens. So how are the quantum particles, how is the photon or the electron that they fired, how is it aware of where it was supposed to land in relation to where the other ones that they fired before and after landed?
I'll tell you exactly how that works. Is we have a quantum entanglement with distance, right? And we also have quantum entanglement in the past or future. Doesn't matter where you're at in the past or future. It's all
so it's interacting with those other particles.
Right.
Yeah, on a 4-dimensional level, because
Right.
we've got 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time. That's the 4th dimension. And even though the fourth dimension of time is a very hard concept for us to realize, we can realize a 3, but that 4th one of time, we can't comprehend it. But when you go into quantum mechanics, all this stuff is entangled, time and space.
Yeah.
So your theory is that it's actually interacting with those other particles, and that's why every mathematical possibility that can exist is going to happen.
You don't have a double landing on one particle another. It's experienced itself already in time and space.
Okay,
so
that's what I wanted to know. Right.
Well, all time exists at the same time.
All the time.
Yeah, it's not. We see it as an arrow of time, but it's not.
Right.
It's already happened, and it will happen.
You know, one of the things. One of the scientific studies that I thought was most fascinating, that shows about the lack of free will and the deterministic nature of the universe, was that they sat somebody, different people, multiple people, of course it was a large study, and they were shown either a calming image like a beach and a landscape, or they were showing a distressing.
Knew it ahead of time.
Yes, that was exactly. Their bodies were physically reacting before the computer had generated the image. So that, I thought, was one of the most compelling pieces of evidence that we have right now out there that shows the deterministic nature of the universe.
Now, I have a question. The only reason I'm having this is because it seems like we are really, as a human race, we're trying to. I don't know how many people believe in God, but we're trying to figure out how God do things. I mean, that would sound like to me. And every time we come close, it acts different than what we expect. We get close to seeing the movement of the particles, and then they act different ways as we try to figure it out. But the question I have is, you ain't gonna ask this question, but if you're a believer or you believe in God or what have you, do you think God wants you to figure out how He creates stuff and why He moves things the way He moves?
Yes.
It's to the glory that God could seal matter, but it's to the glory of men or kings to search it out. So yeah, Absolutely. He leaves us all these mysteries, so it causes us to search.
Right. He gave us inquisitive natures.
Yeah, otherwise He wouldn't put that desire in our hearts to go searching.
I mean,
I'm so sorry, but I gotta cut out, guys. But it's been nice to hang out with you guys for a little bit, though.
All right, Meegs.
Bye.
I love
See
you
later,
all
Meegs.
much.
Hey, love you. Thanks for coming.
All right, see you guys later.
All right, then. Bye.
Bye.
Mm-hmm.
We had a Ty. Ty was saying Tom understands perhaps reality is not reality. Others believe that reality is what we make. Right, and then I see what you're all saying. Yeah, I don't know. We could all be mistaken. This thing can.
I'm sorry, I missed the question. What was the question?
It wasn't a question, it was a statement. Some people believe in that reality is what we make of it, and then some believe reality is not reality at all. It's holographic, So,
right, the holographic nature of the universe, right. I've read that book, The Holographic Universe.
Yeah,
by
me too.
Michael, who? Y'all remember his last name?
It's very funny, though. It's very funny how we get so adept with, even Christians ourselves. I don't know. We get so adept in finding out what God is doing and how He's doing it, but we don't get in a relationship with Him. That trips me out. We know everything else. We inquisitive about how He makes the universe and how the universe floats. But we inquisitive on how to get better relationships with Him.
I don't think that's true. I think that we're all seeking connection with God, I think.
You'd be surprised. I mean, you'd be surprised of what's going on in just my city. I done went to about 20 churches, and they used to have a lot of members, and now they got 4 or 5. Everybody's beginning to stop even worrying about God. I mean, they don't even acknowledge him no more. I'm surprised you said God in this case.
There have been a lot of harmful effects of organized religion on the course of human history, though, also. So I can understand people turning away from some organized religion where the hypocrisy is just too much for them.
Well, it's because of John 11, the plot to kill Jesus. Pretty intense verse. I would suggest it. You would be able to see the difference in the church version and the internal version that Jesus said to take up your own cross. I would suggest it.
I think that we do. I don't know that church attendance really has to do with spirituality and connection to God, though. Do you know?
No. People tell me just what they preaching right now. Skip God. This is what they preaching now. You hear it all over the TV, even though you hear the elite saying, only thing you need to do is be God, be good, and be happy with whatever you want to do.
Virgil, are you an atheist? Virgil?
Virgil? Who's Virgil?
I thought his name was Virgil, the quantum physicist.
Oh, no. Me?
Yeah. What's your name again?
Tom.
Todd? I'm sorry,
Tom.
I cannot hear.
Tom. His name is Tom, yeah.
Tom, are you an atheist? What are your spiritual beliefs?
No, I used to be atheist back probably about 40 years ago. So, no, not about 35 years ago. But yeah, I was a complete atheist. And the thing was I just started just smoking a lot of pot and all that. And then I just started thinking about things, and then I was realizing even back then that there was a supernatural realm, and that's why I got saved. I've been saved ever since. But I'm a technician, but what I love to do, I love to think about things. And I asked God about 10 or 15 years ago, I said, show me some of the patterns of the universe, because I'm a firm believer if you study how something works, like a pattern, everything has a pattern, then you can use that pattern in different things. Like trigonometry could be used for electronics, architecture, etc.
That is fascinating, the mathematical nature of the universe.
Hey guys, I need to split out, but it's been wonderful.
Troy.
You guys I gotta wake up early in the morning. Oh, absolutely, you guys. It's been wonderful
thanks, Troy.
meeting you, Jessica.
Have a good day.
Have a good one.
You too.
Hey, man. Have a good night.
Here, good night.
Hey, Bluebeard.
All right, Bluebeard.
You there?
Oh yeah, yeah. Anyhow, I was just seeing these different things, and then I asked God.
I'm sorry about the image, guys. I don't know how the hell they got there.
Oh, it's okay, man. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, welcome.
What version are you? That's a question I like to ask a lot of people. What version are you?
What's your theory?
Yeah.
What's my theory on what?
The Mandela effect. The Mandela effect.
Where are you from? Where are you from, Bluebeard? Tell everyone where you're from.
Sagittarius on, guys.
Bluebeard. Okay.
I heard that voice before.
Tom, Tom, thank you for sharing your answer
Tom.
with me.
Yeah, no problem at all. Hey, I got to get going, guys.
Well, this is
great talking to you.
No problem, Tom.
See you later, Tom. Bye.
See you now. Bye.
All right, brother. Okay, so Bluebeard, welcome.
I'm trying to hang on. I'm getting over. I'm just trying to shut this down to try that. Okay. Hello guys.
Hello.
That's better. I left the mic on, the sound on, and I was getting both you guys talking. And the things I'm listening to the past conversation and what you was actually saying, so it was a bit confusing.
Right.
Hear your voice, Bluebeard.
I thought I think a lot of the physics goes over a lot of people's heads that haven't looked into it and studied it. You know.
Yeah. You're probably right.
I'm still trying to work out how I got the next split broadcast and the bloody image on my thing. How do you change the image, guys? I hate that image. How do I change it?
You gotta go to the YouTube and this must be your new channel. Is it a new channel?
No, it's got my own. It's got an icon on it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You can check the icon. Go to YouTube.com and click on the little thumbnail at the top right where your image is, and then you can click the little camera icon to change it.
Yeah, no, I'm actually in there, and it's pretty much that's the image that I've got. But that's the, don't know why it's giving me XSplit. It's just weird. Yeah. So what are you actually talking about?
Oh well, Jesse,
we were talking about all that.
Pretty much everything.
Everything. Pretty much.
Religion.
Yeah.
Quantum physics.
Quantum physics.
You might not want me talking about religion at the moment. It's sort of after what I've been finding out about with the Anunnaki, how the Bible is an exact copy, or the Old Testament is an exact copy of the Anunnaki tablets, and I mean it's almost an exact copy, just reworded to suit the Catholics. And after finding that book about the Catholics, I'm not really Christian-minded sort of a person at the moment, guys. I must apologize.
We'll talk quantum then, because I know religion can be a touchy subject for a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I will say, before you switch the topic completely, I do want to say I do find the changes in the Bible disturbing. I don't know why that's occurring, and I do find it disturbing, but I am definitely on the quantum side of things. I'm not sure. I do think that was something that was more disturbing on a level that I really don't understand what the message is for that from a higher power. You know, why that got changed. I'm not sure.
Ty, I'm just answering Ty in the chat room. Yeah, Ty, there's plenty of proof about it, mate. It's actually in the tablets, and I tend to believe 18,000-year-old tablets over a piece of paper that was only written a couple of thousand years ago.
Right.
And it's the exact same stories. Everything is there, but there's more explanation in the Anunnaki tablets and things like that. It's sort of, and when you want to know why everything's changing, is because we are already being given one promise that's actually in the Bible, in the Anunnaki tablets, of the new heaven and a new earth. Because I'm an astronomer as well as everything else that I've done in my life, right? Mm-hmm. And I've got sitting behind me, I have a about $15,000 telescope, and then another one worth about $7,000. So yeah, I like looking at the stars, and
me too.
I don't do it in halves. I use stuff that can see stars and nebulas and things like that. And we are currently not looking at our sky anymore, and a lot of people don't even realize this. And the promise of the new heaven and the new earth has already been fulfilled. Like my local harbour, I've travelled that local harbour thousands and thousands of times. And I mean,
man, I was the second person that said that, because I said it too.
Yeah.
I said the same as you.
And that harbour is not my harbour. It now points to the beach. I don't know, can you share the screen in this one?
You want me to point you in the direction of sharing it? Or?
I know how to do it in other programs. I'm just getting up Google Earth first, because you need Google Earth to do it. Like Cube has changed too, so it's sort of driving nuts. So how do I share the screen?
I don't know. Did you hear about Mark Zuckerberg? He was going to buy out YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. You know what he was going to call it?
What?
You twit face.
Brian, was that part of his testimony in front of Congress?
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
No, I'm just kidding. I know. I'm just kidding.
This is a joke. Thursday.
That was a good one.
We like to have fun on this channel.
Yeah, that was funny.
Brian, I gotta go.
All right. Can you keep your other self here with us?
My other self?
Yeah.
Superposition.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'll try to place somebody in there, and anyway.
No, you can be in both places at once.
You could be. You know, you never know.
Superposition.
Hey, everybody, it was good to meet you. The ones I didn't know, and the ones that I do know, hey, good on you.
Hey,
good
Harold.
to see you.
All right, Harold.
Hey, I love all y'all.
Take care, brother.
I'll see you later. All right, bye-bye.
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 Have a good weekend. Okay.
That's a good guy.
Yes, sir. All right.
Do you want me, Brian? Did you want me to explain entanglement very briefly?
Yes, because I think it's a very good subject. A lot of people want to hear about it, and also entanglement between people and relationships. Yeah, I'd like to hear that.
Okay.
I was talking about that today on my stream.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, this will be perfect subject, and you have the floor, Jessica. Go ahead.
Okay. Just for a layman's version of entanglement, what they learned was that with subatomic particles, if you measure one, and the entangled pair will always react or instantaneously react to that other one. Like if you measure one and it's in the up position, the other entangled pair will always be in the down position. And likewise, if it's rotating clockwise, the other one will always be rotating counterclockwise. So it hints that this is something that is very curious, and the information can be transmitted over any distance instantaneously. It doesn't matter how far the distance. So far, they've gotten up to 750 miles of distance between the entangled particles, and still not been able to see any difference with that. Now, that said, they're working on quantum communication, which means that they'd like to be able to communicate over any distance instantly. This is not talking about faster than the speed of light. This is talking about instantly. So these particles are thought to somehow, in some way, be able to communicate with each other and know what the other is doing at any distance instantly. And I don't mean over faster than speed of light. I'm talking about at the same exact second, at the same exact millisecond, however you want to break it down. And they do not understand this phenomenon, but it's very, again, well proven, grounded in science, replicable. And so everybody's very interested in that as a means of communication. But so far, they are not able to, anything can interfere with that because it can interact with other particles that are subatomic particles. So you can break that communication or whatnot, and you can interrupt the entanglement very easily. So they're working on that. They're working on that.
Sorry, guys. I've just shared the wrong screen. Apologize for that, guys and girls.
I didn't mean to break your concentration there, Jessica. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make clear what entanglement is that it is, it's showing that particles that are entangled, and entanglement actually is something very specific. And the idea of entanglement on a macroscopic level is, again, I think that most of the people who talk about it in that way it's pure speculation. But I did mention that, some people believe that the moment of the Big Bang, we were all entangled in that moment. But, then again, you hear that entanglement can be interrupted very easily. So that kind of theory gets thrown out the window if you look at that. So I'm not sure what it is. But I do feel like we are connected with everybody else as far as like our consciousness or whatnot, on a level that we can't control or manipulate. I think that anyway. I know some people do. But I just wanted to explain entanglement for people who didn't understand it.
But I have a question. If they're working on an experiment to communicate with the entanglement, that means they working on a way to interfere. And if you interfere with the entanglement, won't it get untwined? And if it get untwined, won't it be unbalanced? I mean,
what it is that it gets interrupted because the entangled pair can't stay entangled. Like it can get interrupted by other particle interactions. So they have to conduct a lot of these experiments. They're going to try to do this. Actually, the last one from the Chinese that showed it worked over 750 miles was done from a satellite. And they were able to have an entangled pair, and they measured one, and of course the other one was still entangled. But that's the farthest distance they've been able to show that it exists and that entanglement is something that has happened. But the problem is that when you try to use that as a means of communication, an entangled pair can't stay entangled because of other particles interfering with it. So that connection can get broken, if that makes sense.
It's almost like they're trying to build what they call a twin state of people. Meaning you can be in two different places at the same time, interacting with yourself without being from the other state. I mean, it's almost like a walkie-talkie.
Right. They're thinking that, and they're thinking
it's like we're actually
the
physically connected when we dream as well. This is what I was discussing. That I believe our dreams are actually us connecting with our other selves, and that we're actually physically experiencing what the other one of us is actually experiencing whilst we dream, because we are in such a state where that our mind is not thinking, and hence naturally just instantly connects with the other version of ourselves.
I agree with that, because I noticed that when you dream, you react to your dream. I mean, and even I done had dreams where I try to pull myself out, and it's like physically energy was trying to pull me back in. And a lot of people say when you dream, don't fall. Wherever you at, don't fall and hit the ground, because you will die. And I've experienced it. People wake up and they must have been dreaming so very panicky because their body gets shaken.
Oh, I thought it was me. I thought that was me sharing the screen then with the chat up in the window. I've been trying to fix the problem up the whole time. I've been trying to share the Google Earth with you, sort of showing you the harbour. It was actually you sharing the screen.
If you want to share something, let me know. I'll spill it over to you for a second. That's fine.
Yeah, I was just going to show you about this with the harbours and stuff like that, proving to me this is not my reality. Like just this.
Can you share that with us, Bluebeard?
What was that?
Can you share the map with us that you were going to share? I'm sorry.
I'm sharing already. Yeah.
It's not showing up on the screen yet.
It's not.
No, you gotta arrow over to the little green screen share button.
All right.
Yeah, screen share.
Click on that one and share.
I can present you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. It says I'm sharing.
All right. Can you minimize those other windows?
Oh, they're only there for a second. Hang on. Oh, shit, it's still on the wrong one.
Oh, it's sharing the wrong screen?
Yeah, I'll just fix that up. Oh, buddy, Google, YouTube, they're all the same. I never get anything screen share. I never get anything right. It won't let me swap over.
Because I noticed, I heard a project where they was trying to take one to another place.
Okay, try
it's
that.
almost like they was. Yep. Have you ever seen the Fly, where they took the man and made a transporter where they transport him from one place to another?
They've actually theorized, right? Yeah, they've actually theorized that if we are able to create something like in the future, that they might be able to do that with using entanglement. That's one of the theories, anyway.
Yeah, but the shifts aren't just us moving. The shifts are someone coming into your home and actually physically taking you out. I've heard them do it. I quite regularly. I've been going through a lot of weird experiences the last week, and like I hear them in my room talking in English, and they're talking about physical conditions, room conditions. They see something in the room and they'll talk about it. And I've deliberately left things so that they do talk about it. And I actually hear them talk about these things. They are coming into our homes and doing this. I believe that this is all connected. But see this picture of the harbour that I'm sharing at the moment, right? The bottom line coming down to the bottom of the screen, that's the way my harbour always pointed, in that direction, out to sea. But if you look at it in this reality, that is actually pointing to the beach. Right. Because when you zoom out, that's the orientation of the harbour.
Hey, we got to ask you something, Bluebeard. Since you're in that general area, are you affected by the Australia shift? And if so, what was the capital of Australia that you remember?
It's been Canberra in every reality that I have been to.
Wow.
That has never changed. It's always been Canberra. A lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of Americans actually make that mistake because, see, Sydney's our capital city, but it's not our capital. That's where, see, it is still classified as our capital city, but it's only the capital city of New South Wales. Brisbane is Queensland, Melbourne is Victoria, Adelaide is Western Australia, Adelaide is South Australia, Perth is Western Australia, Darwin is Northern Territory. We have 6 states, 1 territory. And Tasmania is Hobart's capital city. But everybody makes that same mistake because Canberra is actually in the heart of New South Wales, but it's its own separate state and or territory, whatever they want to call it. But Canberra is not only a little city, it's a pretty major city. It's been designed to be the capital of Australia. It's been the capital of Australia for as long as I can remember, and it's separate. It's a federal state rather than a normal state. Federal laws apply the moment you cross the border. So, and it's been like that my whole life, guys. It's never been like anything. I've been to other realities, and it's always been Canberra. I've seen this harbour, though, change on numerous occasions. So it's sort of, it's weird on how this thing all works. It's sort of, we're getting picked up, moved around, shuffled around like a deck of cards. We've got no say in this damn thing. They're treating us like shit. The last few abductions that I have experienced, they've been actually showing me some pretty scary shit. And I mean, they've been showing me some very scary shit. But
now I have a question for you.
Yeah, you man, good, man.
Do you believe it's a natural thing,
no,
or
no,
do you believe it's somebody else doing it?
I believe well personally, if you want to know what I think, one, that someone has given them the technology to do what they're doing, and I believe that CERN has got a lot to do with it. And I'll call up another screen that I've been. Everybody wants to download this web page. Like CERN today, actually great, that's brilliant. CERN's luminosity, they've had that up to what is it? 900 TeV. That's the highest CERN has ever. Their energy rating is 9 TeV, which is quite high. They normally only do it maximum about 3 or 4 intensity. Normally only about a 7 in the energy.
Oh wow!
But in the luminosity, the other day it was 1200, and then a couple of days later it was 1500. These are experiments, and I believe these are causing the glitches and the flip-flops. But someone has given them this technology, and they're utilising it. Not CERN is utilising it, but whoever gave them this technology, they gave it to them for a reason. Because I also think that it's got something to do with the Anunnaki and maybe a few other races, because mankind.
Yeah, that's what I said too.
Yeah, there's ample evidence.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, there's ample evidence
because
out there.
It's a reason why these ancient books they show exactly what's going on. See, and I love people hypothesis, but when you got a book that's 200 years old, 300 years old, and it's still relevant, everything that's in it is still happening, and so somebody said something that was right.
Yeah, but the
like,
Anunnaki tablets are 18,000 years old, and they say the exact same thing.
And so the planet is talking for a reason. These cracks in the ground and these fishes, especially the birds just dropping out of the sky. You know, I believe it's some more things. They don't know how to use it properly, and that's why they're having these issues because they still experiment on how to use it. I think they was given the technology, but they wasn't given on the exact way to use it. So they had to experiment to see how far they can push the envelope.
Yeah, or they found it. That's the other theory as well. They actually found the technology. Because see, when the Anunnaki were here, they actually, like a good example is they buried nuclear weapons. They talk about them burying these nuclear weapons, and they pretty much the descriptions of them are almost identical to a nuclear weapon. And in the whatever they call those rollers that they make to draw pictures with, in one of them there's actually a picture of the A-bomb that matches the current picture of our A-bomb, and then right beside that A-bomb picture in that scroll is a picture of a cloud that's shooting out arrows exactly the same shape as a nuclear explosion. So, like, these weapons have been around for, like, God knows how many years, 36,000 years, 100,000 years, whatever, and they were brought here by the Anunnaki. And this is why we're getting a lot of UFO sightings at the moment.
And that's why I believe a lot of people think I can't even say the word. I'm unorthodox, where I believe in the Bible, but the thing is, I believe the Bible, just like it said, I don't know if the Anunnaki said, that that Tower of Babylon that they were building with technology that we don't know of. That's why God had to destroy it, or it was destroyed because they had the ability to do things that we can't perceive right now. Because if we were so primitive, you don't have to have it flood 40 days or 40 nights to kill off somebody they ain't never seen in rain. Because they must, if they were that primitive, they wouldn't have had no drains. They wouldn't have had no pumps or none of that. You could let it rain 10 days and they would have died.
Yeah, but you know, these same things are written in the Anunnaki tablets, exactly the same as what they are in the Holy Bible. That were written, and it was written about the tablets have been dated about 18,000 years. So that exactly is X amount of times around the block, around Earth and its location. And by the way, it's the same as the Mayan calendar. The Mayan calendar was a countdown of 36,000 years. Now, the reason why the Mayan calendar was a countdown of the 36,000 years, because you've got the other ones that have been here and been pretty much ripping the shit out of us while Nibiru's been out of the picture. I believe they come back quite regularly, i.e. they've devastated the Mayan civilization and they've been here for some time. And this is why they want to get rid of our guns. So you think about it. If you've got a race of beings and they've got weapons out there, especially one country so massive filled with weapons, that the people of that country alone are a better army than its actual army. And so you've got to remove the weapons of those people. And that's currently what's going on at the moment. They are sitting in power, man. You've only got to have a look at every news broadcast you see. And I mean this, have a look at every single broadcast you look at. And look at their teeth and look at their eyes. You will actually see it happening right in front of your eyes, whether you're sitting in front of a television, whether you're sitting in front of a computer. It will scare the living shit out of you, because they are not hiding it anymore. Yeah, they are not hiding it anymore. But that's why
I was looking at, I had a video on how it's like they shut them off when they want to, and all that. But the thing that I look at a lot is that they're trying to prepare for total domination. That's why they have to shrink. That's why they have to bring the United States down to the common denominator, so that they control more when you got fear. When
Yeah,
you
well,
got fear,
they've already taken the guns off Australians. We're screwed here. If anything happens, we're screwed. We're preying on America to help everybody. And they're trying it in Pakistan. They're doing it everywhere. And it is all part and parcel of what's going on. And sorry, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen while I'm at it. I've been chewing my my hard drive. But the whole point of it is all these things have actually been happening for some time. Not everybody's sound asleep. And unfortunately, in every reality I've been to, people have been dead asleep. And I mean, they've been so asleep, it's beyond a joke. And it's just so much out there that this information is actually out there for everybody just to go and grab and look and read. And if they read it, they would realize that our history is older than what they realize.
right? And they telling you. I mean, did you see that video where they found the mummy with some Adidas?
They're just moccasins. They're just mocking. I saw that one and that to laugh me fucking head off.
I said, what the world? Mommy got Adidas on.
Yeah, they got the patterning of the Adidas. Maybe Adidas stole the patterning off the mummy. You never know. But the stuff out there, they found one of the Anunnaki kings, and his body is so well preserved with no mummification techniques to his thing. And the ironic thing is, the Anunnaki can actually revive. I believe Christ was an Anunnaki, because he always said, I'm not of this earth. But the ironic thing, reading those tablets has actually strengthened my faith in God. But I've never believed in the Bible. I've believed in God, and that's the difference. I've never worshipped Jesus. I've always worshipped God. And but the difference is with the Anunnaki tablets, you get a much larger explanation. And a lot of people don't realize that King James ordered the writing of the Bible. But when he ordered the writing of the Bible, he actually ordered the Catholic priests that were advising him to turn around and, to write the Bible. So they had full control.
We're gonna have a show with the Bible, Brian. I'm getting sleepy now.
Yeah, we got probably like 5 or 10 more minutes. We can go over time a little bit.
What's everybody going today?
This is your first time, I believe, coming on. It's so far been a pleasure. I love hearing different perspectives on the Mandela effect. I actually started watching your channel and Moneybags' channels originally, and then I was watching YA's channels. Can you hear me?
Man, bro, you need to look at my channel.
Yeah.
Brian?
You man, I look at your channel too, buddy. I'm talking about
Brian, can you hear me?
First affected.
Yeah, Brian, she's trying to talk.
Yeah, go ahead, Jessica.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. I couldn't tell if I was muted or not again. I had a question actually for him, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I lost the call for a minute because my phone battery died, but I'm back on. And do you know, I remember, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember New Zealand's position being north of Australia, just a tiny bit, and Papua New Guinea being attached to it. And now it seems to be on like the bottom right-hand corner if you look at a world map. And is that something that affected you?
Yeah, it's different in every country. And at the moment, it's different again. I was talking about that in my stream this morning because the orientation of it has changed something shocking. And
how do you remember it?
Well, I remember the New Zealand being slightly higher than Victoria. The bottom of New Zealand used to be about equivalent to Victoria's border and New South Wales. It used to be straight up and down, and it was a little bit further out to the west, maybe by a couple of 100 miles to the west. but definitely straight up and down, and it wasn't not as large as what it is now, but the orientation now in this reality, it's actually laying down. Sorry, I was talking over somebody there.
Can I share with everyone a picture of it? So is that okay?
Yeah.
Let's look at a map of it real quick.
Yeah, it's quite scary on how it's actually laying down now. I've got a funny feeling that I've shifted again. So I don't know. I've got to go for a drive a little bit later today and to try and work out what's going on. I'm being harassed by 2 puppy dogs at the moment.
Brian?
Yes, I'm here.
I'm not able to see the map, but what I think if I could simplify my question, if you looked at Australia from a world map,
looking at it right now,
like, okay, hang on 1 second, I'll look.
And we'll trace it. We'll actually trace it.
Yeah, I can't see it. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but if you had to say it's situated in the center or the top right-hand corner or to the right of it or to the bottom right-hand corner or below it, like where would it have been? What do you remember?
As of right now, it's in the 5 o'clock position right here.
Yep. Brian, if you can draw a straight line, if you've got the ability to draw a line on that, draw a line from the bottom of the top of the Victorian border on the coast and New South Wales.
I know where I know where it is now.
Yeah.
I'm asking, like, was it centered and straight above it?
It was straight up and down. And the bottom of New Zealand was equivalent to the New South Wales Victorian border.
Which I can't see.
Right here?
Which, no, a little bit further across than the coast.
Right here?
Equivalent to the bottom of that. You'll see where the borders join.
I can't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't see the map. That's why I was asking. Okay. I know that it's in the 5 o'clock position now because it's like I said, the bottom right-hand corner is where I see it now. But
it would have been the 3 o'clock position to that. The bottom of New Zealand would have been the 3 o'clock position to New Zealand.
Okay, that's where you remember it?
Yes, yeah.
You remember right about here, but it was straight up and down. Is that right?
See, I remember it.
No, not there, but across, a straight line across. Shrink it a little bit. Take that little hook off the end of the damn thing.
How do I draw
the top? Yeah, take that off it. Get rid of that, and then make it straight up and down in a little bit smaller. And the bottom of it was equivalent to where your mouse is right now.
All I'm seeing is XSplit broadcaster on my screen.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how that's there. I don't know why that's there. Yeah, sorry.
Oh.
Okay, well, that's what I'm seeing instead of a map because earlier I could see the book that Cynthia was sharing.
Brian's map it is. Brian's showing. Yeah.
It might be a delay. It could be there's always a delay. But guys, I want to point out that
she had to type on your name. She had to type on your name. Type on your name.
Oh, okay. Let me try that.
Yeah,
you see it?
My name. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can see it now.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have Western Australia, Northern Territory, Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia here, and Tasmania here. New Zealand over here.
Tasmania is
look how far Tasmania.
See that little extra hump? See that little extra hump that's on the top of Australia? That actually belongs more on the coastline as a flat thing up to that first hump. We only ever had one hump on Australia in my reality. Now it's got 2 humps. It's like a double humped camel.
You talking about here?
Yeah, that knob there, the bigger knob, the next one up.
This one was not there, do you?
That bigger knob. You got the really big one, which is you got the point. Those 2 were the ones that belonged. That one and the next one, they were always there. But then you've got a little one on the side of Western Australia, and it's quite large. It's almost as large as the middle one.
Okay, where's that at? Okay, to me, this always looked like a
that one there. That one there should not be there.
Oh, this one here?
No, that one. No, you had it on it. You had no. Back up.
This one?
That one. Yeah, that one. That big one.
No, that wasn't there in my reality either.
Yeah.
This was more flat.
And there was more land on the side of Western Australia, so it's as if they've taken a big chunk and just dumped it on the top of Australia.
But look down here too. I don't remember this little part here. Do you?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's the bit that's extra. It's got a double hump.
Yeah, right here.
The point has always been there. The middle hump has always been there, but that little extra hump on top of Western Australia was never ever there.
This one up here.
No, that's South Australia.
No,
and
it's a slight delay. There is a delay.
Oh, okay.
I'm pointing to the top of Australia right now.
Okay, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That one was not there. No.
That was totally there. But see that big indentation that's missing on Western Australia further down? Move your mouse down a bit.
Okay, right here?
No, on the other side. Western Australia.
Here?
No, top of Western Australia, underneath beside the hump on the left-hand side. You'll notice there's a dent cut out of Western Australia. That wasn't like that.
No, that wasn't like that, no.
No, up. That bit further across, towards the hump. No, towards the hump that we were talking about. No, go up towards the hump. Oh, sorry, yeah, because of the delay. I'm not seeing it. No.
Right here?
No. Further up. Across to the, just in between the middle of Western Australia. You'll notice a big chunk. You'll notice a big chunk missing. It's as if that hump was taken out of that chunk. As I said, it's like they've got to not that that hump and go further down towards the coast. Yeah, keep on coming down. Yeah, you've just gone over it. That chunk out of there, that was straighter.
Yeah, I do remember that sort of. Yeah, it was straighter.
Yeah, and that's just too weird for my liking. That sort of. But America's moved again too for me.
So with your theory, question, so what do you think is causing it?
I don't know what's causing it, but I know that when the Anunnaki built either one Earth or whatever, whoever built it didn't just build one, because like any scientist is not just going to do one test. Anybody doing like an experiment, and i.e., I reckon the planets were God's experiments. I don't think that he actually made just one. I reckon he made many, and they developed differently over the years. And but then the Anunnaki come along, and they've realised this, or the Anunnaki are actually the true gods, and because everything that they wrote is the same as in the Bible, and. So I don't know. It's like we're in a giant zoo actually, and I think somehow if everybody wants to believe in the flat Earth and the domed Earth, we're pretty much in giant zoos, and they're just swapping us over here, there, everywhere because I don't know why. We're pretty much, I call it the human show, as if we're being swapped around because we got boring.
Well, I'm glad to get your acquaintance. And I love all the stuff that you were saying, Nurse. I forget the Lord Jesus. What's her name?
Jessica. Just Jessica.
I call her Nurse Jessica.
Thanks.
Yeah, man, I watch your videos as well, dude. It's at I watch everybody's videos. And,
thank you, man. That's great. And I'm glad to get to. And I love, Brian. You the man. You always.
Hey,
I say ever since I said that's the residual king, boy. He got the best staff on this side.
Thank you, man. Amen.
I'm about to.
I got your channel linked. I'm gonna link. I'm gonna link all you guys' channels. I have them in the description. I'll add.
Just don't put me in one of those cartoons.
Oh no, never.
So,
no, that was in lieu of 420 Day. Yesterday was 420 Day for all around the world.
I don't even know what 420 Day is. Sorry.
Look up 420 Day. I can't say it on the air.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say it.
What?
So I'm gonna go ahead.
I said I'll say it.
Take me in there.
Oh, okay. You
is
can
that
say
okay? It. Yeah. 420 is supposed to be like when everybody smokes marijuana.
Oh, okay. No, if we do that here, we go to jail.
Well,
you know, in the States, they're making that legal everywhere. That's gonna be a new thing.
Well, our country, even though it's illegal here, we actually grow half your medical marijuana. Would you believe our government grows
So
half
that's
your
why.
medical,
So you telling me that's why half my people out here is high. You bringing us all that well marijuana over there.
They buy it from Australia. They do. They seriously buy half of it from Australia. It's well-known news here. It's sort of like it's the same as most of the opium population is grown in Australia, like for Australian use, is for like medical uses, is actually grown down in Tasmania as long as where the hemp's grown. So they can control it more than that tiny little island. So
there were two questions I wanted to ask you guys real quick before we go. One of them was to the nurse, Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed the ovaries change with the Mandela effect? Because didn't they not used to be like, the little eggs?
Yes. Oh, yes. Absolutely. The ovaries are so different. They used to there was like one branch to one ovary and one branch to another. And now they have, it looks like it loops around and it's completely different. Yes.
I thought so. I don't know when it changed. It had to be recently in the last year.
Well, no, actually, that was one of the changes that I saw longer ago than that. But it is vastly different. I'm talking about radically different. It's as different as the kidneys are. In fact, if not more so. And I remember actually it was after I spoke to you before that I noticed it. Like, I don't remember the last time I talked to you. So maybe it was in the last year. But it was shocking when I saw it. And it was just as dramatic as the kidneys change.
And was it as dramatic as the skull change? I mean, well, tell me, because that is a big one for a lot of folks, the 6 holes in the skull. You remember that?
Yeah.
It's not our actual skulls that are changing. It's sort of like they are physically doing something to us. I'm getting scars every time I get a change. But you've got to realize that when we go to a different reality, we don't change ourselves. It's the reality that is different, and everybody thinks that we are getting those skulls and everything like that. But my skull is still exactly the same. I've had an X-ray. My body is still the same. My rib cage is still the same. I've made up excuses to get these X-rays, and they're exactly the same as they've always been. But I've got a question for Jessica. Are your doctors noticing all these people with all these different bone structures?
It's not something I speak about. The reason I go by Nurse Jessica and I don't give my last name is because I, again, don't want to be seeming crazy in my profession. So I'm not asking doctors about this because I have a professional reputation to uphold.
Yeah. My friends, I've got friends that are doctors and they are noticing them. They are definitely noticing them. And so I was just wondering what was happening over in the States. My one friend pretty much risked his career telling me because he knew I'd say something, but it sort of, he turned around to me and said, if I say anything to publicly, he said, we'll lose our jobs. They've been forced in every reality that I've been to actually turn around and sit there and learn the structures of the new people that are coming. You look online and you'll see all the different skeleton structures. Because they're documenting. Yeah. They're documenting the skeleton structures. They're even on Google.
E-Man has a question. Go ahead, E-Man.
If it's actually changing, and we don't say nothing, and we don't express what we see, ain't we just as guilty as the people that's changing it?
Yeah, but we are telling people.
Right, but I'm not going to say in my professional workplace.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That's not. I don't mind talking about it. Like I'm telling people about it right now, but I'm not willing to do that in my workplace where I could lose my job for basically what they may perceive as my mental instability.
I'm lucky I'm the boss. I own the business. I'm sure. They can't sack me.
I'm sure they can sack them. They're gonna first give you a drug test, and then they're gonna give you a mental evaluation. I know how this stuff works,
right?
But there was another question about Let's see. There seemed to be a Mandela effect surrounding Louis Lasagna. Maybe I know we talked about that.
I don't know who he is. Yeah.
Exactly, but there's this thing. Jessica, you want to talk about that one, or
I don't know that one.
My dogs can hear your dog through the speakers. They're just going nuts.
I'm going to encourage everyone to look up the Louis Lasagna oath.
Can you put it in the chat so I can look it up?
Oh, you're talking about the Hippocratic Oath?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that I know about. Yeah, that's James.
Yes, and that was actually EYA.
Yeah, my mate said that, yeah.
All right, the Hippocratic Oath is, I explained this to Brian, but I'll just say it for the listeners, that the Hippocratic Oath is the oath that doctors, medical doctors, take when they finish medical school, and it is an oath to do no harm. And it's much longer than that, but the only thing I knew about it was that it was to do no harm. That's the basis of it. And I did not take that oath. I am not a doctor, and so I actually don't know what it said before, so I have no ability to answer whether or not that's changed.
Hold on. Wait. Are you telling me nurses don't got to say that?
No, we take an oath. We take an oath to act as our patient's advocate, which is a completely different thing. Doctors are ordered to do no harm. Nurses are taking an oath to act as their patient's advocate.
Yes. Here's the thing. Like, this is what it says now. Can I read it?
Sure.
Okay. Hang on. Let me present this so you guys can see. Okay. I swear by Apollo the physician, and Asclepius and Hygeia and Panacea, can't pronounce it, and all the gods and goddesses, making them my witnesses, that I will fulfill according to my ability and judgment this oath with this and this covenant, to hold him who has taught me this art as equal to my parents, and to live my life in partnership with him. And if he is in need of money, to give him a share of mine, and to regard his offspring as equal to my brother's male lineage, and teach them this art, if they desire to learn it, without fee and covenant, to give a share of precepts and oral instruction, and all the other learning to my son, to the sons of him who has instructed me, and the pupils who have signed the covenant.
Now, are you talking? You're saying that's the Hippocratic Oath?
Yes.
Did you say do no harm?
I think it's further down.
I was going to say it needs to be in there because I know for a fact that that's the gist of it.
Okay, and it says, and sign the covenant, taking an oath according to the medical law, but no one else. I will apply dietetic measures for the benefit of the sick, and according to my ability and judgment, and I will keep them from harm and injustice.
Keep them from harm.
I will neither give a deadly drug to anybody who asks for it, nor will I make a suggestion to this effect. Similarly, I will not give to a woman an abortive remedy. In purity and holiness, I will guard my life and my art. I will not use the knife, not even on sufferers from stone, but will withdraw in favor of such men as are engaged in this work.
Are you trying to say that was the oath before, or that's the oath now?
This is the oath now.
Okay, there's no way that is the oath. Somebody made that up.
That's what I just said.
No, I'm telling you, listen, the thing is, there's no way that, somebody made that up and is trying to say that that's the oath. That's not correct. I promise you that's not correct, because there's no way that they would make a doctor promise to never perform an abortion, because that's something that's legally allowed. So there's no way all the universities and medical schools decided to change the Hippocratic Oath, or any way that it could have ever changed. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right. In the modern version, which this is the Louis Lasagna in 1964, academic dean of School of Medicine at Tufts University. And this is probably the one you may be familiar with. I swear to fulfill the best of my ability and judgment this covenant. I will respect the hard-won scientific gains of those physicians in whose steps. Does that look more familiar? Can you read that?
Yeah, that's sound. I'm not looking at the screen, but that sounds a lot more familiar. Yes. But I'm just saying that if you go to if you call up any medical school and you read that first one that you just read to me, and especially about the part about abortions, there's no way they'll tell you that's not the Hippocratic Oath. I'm just saying somebody on the internet probably made that up and is trying to say it is the Hippocratic Oath.
Yeah, well, my friend noticed that it had changed as well, and he is a doctor. I've got two friends that are doctors, and they've both noticed that has actually changed because they mentioned it to me. They actually watch my stream. And
that's what I'm talking about. We talk about
Yeah, I'm sorry. The other thing, Jessica, was about HIPAA. How do you remember?
And we talk about this quantum.
It's the Health Information Patient
but
Portability
they
Act.
changing too much stuff that don't sound right.
We've got HIPAA here as well. Yeah. We're Americanizing over here. We've got HIPAA as well.
Yeah, it's called the Health Information Patient Portability Act. That's what it stands for. But I know that the other version is what a lot of people call it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
The Health Information Privacy and Protection or something like that.
Right. And it's just, I think I don't know that that's a Mandela effect, but I think it's something that people just missay all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I actually read it on a U.S. Congress page somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it. It said Health Information Privacy and Protection or something Act. I remember seeing it, but I guess I can dig it up later.
I thought it was HIPAA.
Oh, you thought it was Health Information Patient Privacy Act?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? That may be a Mandela effect then, because I know now it stands for Health Information Patient Portability Act, but the Health Information Patient Privacy Act, if that was what you found and it said it was by Congress and that was the name of it, then maybe that is a Mandela effect. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I did a video on that months ago. I think Brian did one too.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for kind of a while. Let's see, here it is, HIPAA privacy.
Because
right here, businessdictionary.com, one of them right here.
Yeah, it was HIPAA.
I know, it is interesting.
Right.
We're going to keep our eyes out for any new effects. I know Bluebeard, he's got his channel, and so does E-Man. We always try to touch base with each other, Yeah,
well, at the moment I've been talking mainly on the abduction experiences. I've had some pretty freaky ones. Sort of the first one I've had two really weird ones over the last week, so I've been concentrating on those. The first one, what they actually showed me is that we were actually being eaten, and I mean they showed me the food factory, and then it was pretty much as if I was in the story of V, the movie, and then the one after that, pretty much I was in some kind of an orb, and I went into this church inside the orb. I was protected, felt protected, saw everybody with their Bibles, and something about the orb changed done something to their mechanical suit, and the damn thing opened up, and it opened up very much like the bloody what do they call it, the Predator, how his mouth opened. The whole suit opened up very similar to that, same as on the Independence Day suit, how it opened up. That's pretty much what I physically saw in the vision. And but I went through an abduction experience. So I've been talking about that a fair bit over the last week, because that's what I've been going through for the last week, and it's driving me crazy. It's sort of freaking the shit out of me.
What are you saying, that you've had an abduction experience?
I have an implant in my brain. I've even got a video about it online. I've had an implant placed right to the two frontal lobes. I go through airports, especially with the US. They always put me through the big one where they use the body scanner. Then it does a deep metal detection. Comes up onto the forehead every single time. They said, "Oh, you got a metal plate in your head," and I just turned around and said, "No, only an implant." And they just laughed, think I'm joking. I'm not. I had physical evidence out there. And it's the same as I've got evidence now that I'm not saying Bluebeard is the original. I've got put that video up about that as well. So.
Right, and well, I guess I'm curious about this, because I've heard about people who have said that, but I've never actually gotten to talk to somebody. So I got a question. Do you remember it? Do you remember the actual abduction or what these aliens looked like?
Most, yeah, most. And it's the same. My experiences is almost identical to most people. I used to run the New South Wales UFO hotline up until I became affected in it. And after about the second reality, I decided to withdraw from it. And all the other Bluebeards pretty much turned around and did the exact same thing, because everywhere I've gone, we're all resigned from the society. We started it, but we don't need to keep on going with it. And I've been listening to their stories, but I started it mainly to the fact that I was an abductee, and I've just constantly heard my same story time and time again.
What did they look like?
Well, they are some looking human looking. There are the greyish green ones. They're the perfect image of a grey, but they have a greenish skin tint. I've never seen them wear hoodies like the other Bluebeards saw, but they have a greenish grey skin. The same way that you see Hawaiians draw an alien, they always draw them green. And it's sort of, the stories out there about them and everything. It's sort of, but craft can fly really easy. I've even designed my own version of a saucer. And it actually flies as well. But the abduction experiences have been happening to millions and millions of people globally for hundreds and thousands of years.
Right. I just want to watch those videos. So Brian, can you send me those or something?
I just go to my channel. Just go to, oh no, not this channel. Go to the go to my normal channel, just Bluebeard 2011. And
I have no idea what you mean by channel.
My YouTube channel.
Oh, okay. Bluebeard what?
Bluebeard 2011.
2011, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of it's Mandela effect. You have to go back quite a few videos, because I originally used to do solar research, but as I said, I do astronomy. And most of my stuff was on, I found the wonders of the Worldwide Telescope and Google Sky, and I did a lot of my astronomy through that. And so our original videos were astronomy. Then we did start broadcasting the UFO stuff when I felt comfortable doing it. And but every reality I go through, I find similar lives of all the different versions of myself, and someone's got to be here before we get here. And but the stuff that you're seeing in the sky makes you a UFO believer alone. And then when you are an abductee, it's just keeps on going and keeps on going and keeps on going. You'd be seriously surprised at how many people are abducted. If you even dream of it, I guarantee you, if you dream of an abduction, you actually really were abducted.
Well, I've never had a dream or anything, but I will say the only person that I know in real life, so to speak, that's not internet-based, the only person I've actually met who can say anything to that effect, and it wasn't as dramatic as an actual abduction, but my uncle, who is extremely, in my opinion, reliable, said that he said it was a light that moved in a way that light cannot move and traveled faster than anything that was possible to be. It was an unnatural light that moved in a way that could not have been man-made. It was far beyond the capabilities of what mankind can make. And he said that it, moved through the sky at a speed that was ridiculous, and then stopped, and then went a different direction, and something like that. And he said he saw it, and it's the only time he had ever had any weird experience. I was like, so what did you think? He's like, well, I knew it wasn't man-made, and I didn't know, what it was. And that's all he says about it. But I do find that that's very interesting.
Yeah, he's talking about the orbs, which is pretty much what I think I was in the other day during that vision that I saw, because when they took me into the church, I felt protected, and whatever the field was that I was in was what upset their machinery and pretty much opened up their machinery. So it is mechanical. I believe that's what he might be talking about.
Guys,
go ahead, Brian.
Cut the show because we're running way over overtime. But Bluebeard, it was a very welcome experience having you on here. We hope to have you on again sometime.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to come on.
I'm currently trying to raise money for the movie Ripped Away about the Mandela effect. So what I'm doing is, because like I thought I could do it in just slowly get super chats and donations. And I thought, nah. So now I'm streaming on Twitch, and I'm trying to raise money over there. So I'm going to stream a fair bit now. So, but not Mandela effect. I'll be streaming my art, trying to sell my art at the same time, and I'm going to try and use the money from our art, because every reality, we're all artists. So I'm going to try and sell it so that we can raise the money. Because everywhere I've been, we've been making the movie. The set, fair enough, the film sets are different in every reality. It drives me nuts, because I'll have it be in a completed film set and then come to one that's just getting built. Drives you nutty.
We've heard about this movie supposedly coming out this year about the Mandela effect.
Yeah, it's a rip-off, man. They're going to rip us off. And that's why I decided to make the movie Ripped Away. My film company is a very small film company, and I have to raise the money each time. It's very hard to do so in the film industry. If you're not in the
would you be filming
you can raise it yourself.
In the States as well? Or
well, I don't know. It depends on how much money I can actually raise for the film. At first, I've got to raise 50 grand for the camera, because I can't even think about doing it unless I get a decent camera. So I'm trying to raise it, even if I sell a piece of art to buy it.
E-Man?
Yeah, so.
I think he just left.
Oh, crap. Okay, I was going to have him lead us out with a little prayer. Anyway, guys, Lord, we ask that you watch over us and protect us as we go through our days. We know that our time is limited with each other. We ask that you come bless us in every single way. And no matter what belief system we all have, please keep us in your mind and hearts. Always. Anyone want to add to that?
Yeah, pretty much. It might sound strange, but I still pray. And yeah, Father, look, with all the confusion that's going on in this world, if you can protect everybody, because we don't actually know who you are. We never have. And it would be nice that when you do come back, that you do actually show us who you are, so that hiddenness of yourself will be known to everybody, to stop the arguments between religions, to stop all the confusion between everybody. So if you can honor us with that when you do come back, Father, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Amen.
Amen.
In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. Hey, everybody, good night. It was nice having you all on. Jessica.
Yes.
Don't be a stranger. YouTube.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Hey, good night, man. Good night, everybody.